Well, hello folks, welcome to a new episode of Boots on the Ground. We are now in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. And the first place we're going to visit is one of its most famous aviation museum. I have my buddy Adam here. He's going to tell us a little bit more about it. Adam?
Hi there.
So what is this place called?
Stephen F. Udvar Hazy Center is a key part of the Smithsonian exhibit and is a massive aviation museum, one of the largest in the United States. It has an absolutely massive collection and assortment of planes and space vehicles from all kinds of countries around the world. America, Soviet Union, Germany, from World War II, the Cold War, and through to the present day.
So it's basically a mecca for aviation geeks. So we're gonna go through it and show you as many of cool planes as we can. And my friend Adam here is gonna help us navigate our way through it. So let's go. All right, so here we go. Look at that, Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. Let's go.
Boeing or this way or...
Adam, are you in heaven?
Yeah, you could say that. Let's go with space.
Wow, well look at this. Look at the amount of planes here, guys. I've never seen anything like this before. This place is huge. Look at that. You have planes from all different eras. World War II, probably some World War I even. And of course, the more modern ones. There's a, you know, an imposing looking bomber right there. And somewhere in there, we can actually find a shuttle as well. Look at that one. It's probably stealth bomber or something like that. The black one downstairs. And here actually, well, there you go. Look at this. Here we can see what the planes are. So this is Concorde right there, which is the fastest plane ever made. It could make a trip from New York to London in just a matter of hours. And then this black bad boy, that's a Lockheed Blackbird SR-71A. Would you look at that? I can't wait to go and see these things up close. My goodness. Look at that. And such a nice exhibition too. It looks like, you know, they're frozen in mid-fight in the air.
No.
So what is this one, Adam?
This is like a trainer aircraft, a Ryan PT-22 Recruit. I guess this was like an interwar trainer in like the 1920s and 1930s, early 1930s. I don't know too much about the trainers of this era.
What years? So World War II, right?
Well, yeah, like 1930s. And
that doesn't look too sturdy.
Because it's a trainer aircraft.
Oh, okay. This one looks weird. Look at the wings on this one.
Lysander was a highly classified clandestine missions over Axis territory. The Lizzie could land in pastures and was effective at inserting secret. It was built in Canada.
Ah.
Little knew about its service history. Was painted in the colors of 138 Squadron RAF. Look, Westland aircraft built by National Steel Car in Toronto, 1942. So this plane was built in Toronto. That
wow. But why? Look at its wings. Adam, but why is the wings so strange?
This plane I actually know very little about, but it's fascinating because this was, I guess, used for inserting like SOE special forces agents and stuff.
Oh, okay. So what's so special about the Blackbird?
Well, it's the fastest air-breathing plane ever made. Still has not been topped. Powered by ramjets, which enable it to go at speeds of excess of Mach 2.8 to Mach 3.2. It could never, during its service, it was never ever shot down. It was shot at, but it was never shot down because it could simply out-accelerate any missile that was fired at it. Nobody could catch up to it until the late 1980s.
And what year was this?
They had this in the late 1960s, from about 1965 onwards.
This was like a real-life science fiction piece of technology right here.
And why did they stop making them?
Well, because of satellites and satellites got so good that they didn't need things like this anymore.
Also, isn't there one or two planes which are faster?
Oh, is this the Predator?
Yes, the MQ-1 Predator, the one that blew up countless terrorists
And other people.
And a Cold War aviation exhibit here.
So, the Predator, does it have bombs or just the machine guns or both? Or
it has Hellfire missiles. You can see it has one Hellfire missile slung under each wing, which has a range of about 10 kilometers and could be used to destroy a very specific target, like an enemy car or like a vehicle or a tank.
But no machine gun, right?
No.
All right.
Sorry, no, this is a MiG-21 right here.
This is MiG-21?
Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-21 Fisherman, right, yes. So this is the plane that in the Cold War, during the Vietnam War, this plane gave US pilots a run for their money. It was incredibly maneuverable, it was incredibly fast. It had an internal gun, which the F-4 Phantom, which was the main plane that it went up against at the time, did not. And these were very, very, very dangerous to American pilots. Very dangerous. In the right hands, this was a deadly, deadly plane. It was a flying rocket. It's the extremely powerful Termensky engine with, it doesn't have the thrust of the, 12,500 pounds of thrust, and just very, very deadly aircraft right there. The Americans did not expect to come up against this. And right here is the F-4 Phantom. This was the aircraft in which the MiG-21 fought against the most.
Oh, so this is the adversary.
The adversary to the MiG-21 right here. The F-4. This is an S model, which is a little bit later. But, yeah. And right here they have a plaque about an operation in June 1972 when I believe this aircraft received warning of incoming MiGs over North Vietnam. After flying to defeat several surface-to-air missiles, the N-1M arrived and they engaged 3 MiG-21s. Each side fired air-to-air missiles while flying difficult maneuvers but missed. Then Flynn and John got behind one MiG and fired a missile, an AIM-9 Sidewinder, destroying the North Vietnamese plane. And I think it has a kill marker on it somewhere.
No way.
I think this is the exact plane as far as I know.
So this is
a model of a dogfight.
You're right here.
Yeah. Oh.
This is a model, a scale model someone made of the battle on June 1972, and there's the Navy Phantom shooting at the.
Wow.
Okay, no, this is actually a Marine Phantom. This is not the same one that was in this incident, but it's the same type of plane.
Same type. Very interesting. Okay.
This is back to the Korean War. The F-86 Sabre was the main, essentially not quite the main North American fighter, but the main United States Air Force fighter of the Korean War, which was famously saw action over MiG Alley from 1950 to 1953. It had 6 50 caliber M3 machine guns, and as you can see over here, its main adversary is the Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-15. So these two planes would have gone at it against each other over the skies of North Korea.
So this is a Russian one?
This is the MiG-15. As you can see, it has the massive twin NS-23 23mm guns, and I think the 37mm cannon as well. So this had twin 23mm and a 37mm gun, which gave it extremely heavy armament compared to the Sabre 650 cals.
Okay.
650 cals had a lot more ammo than the two 23mm and the 37mm. But this thing, if you got hit with one shell from this, you were done.
Your
plane was totally destroyed.
So how does this work? Like, looks very strange to me, this nose part.
Well, this is just the intake. Like the MiG-15, I guess, had a split intake, whereas the F-86 kind of goes just more straight in. The engines are very similar. Actually, the MiG-15 was powered by a British engine because the British were, under the Attlee government, were stupid enough to sell the Neen turbofan to the Soviet Union. They just copied it and reverse engineered it because the British government was filled with communists at the time.
So how do you think all these planes got here?
This is actually in Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force colors. There you can see it has the Chinese star, not the Soviet star. So yes, and then the nickname was F-A-G-O-T. And there's a little helicopter too. That's like a Korean warrior helicopter.
Oh, that's from MASH.
I think this is actually this is MASH. Yeah.
Okay, well. So this would carry.
You have it on the back here. It's not the Choctaw. It's the Sikorsky HO5S. You're right here. One of only a few surviving crew and helicopters delivered to Operation Squadron V, most which provided most helicopter medical evacuations for wounded Marines in Korea. So this would evac over 5,000 people, and yes, I believe this helicopter was in the beginning of MASH, which is obviously one of the most famous American TV shows of all time. And here's another interesting fact: the finale of MASH is still one of the most watched episodes of TV to this day. I believe when the finale of MASH ended, the New York City water supply almost broke because everyone in New York City flushed their toilet at the same time because they were all watching the finale of MASH. I'm not kidding. It's an urban legend.
Interesting. Very interesting. What is this?
Well, these are all various aircraft weapons used by, so these, right, these are actually all German guns here. We have an MG-15, an MG-17, and an MG-131 gun. There. Both 8mm and 13mm, so these are, two of them are smaller and one of them is bigger, and these were all used in the BF-409 and the Focke-Achgelis Fa 190. There's some more down here at the bottom, the MG-81's Willings, which are like twin mounted, I believe.
And so these would be on the planes?
Yes, these would be mounted inside German aircraft in World War II.
Okay. Ooh, what is that? That's pretty impressive.
That's a Lewis gun at the back there. But this was used in some Allied aircraft, including the Newport 11. So this is World War I.
Okay.
This Lewis gun would have been used in some British World War I planes.
Okay.
And here you have the Browning model 30 caliber and then a 50 caliber M2 and M3.
That's a big boy.
You can see the size difference between the M2 and the M3. Or the M2 30 caliber and the 50 caliber machine gun there.
Okay.
And over here now, these are actually Japanese. So these are all Japanese machine guns right here that were used in Japanese aircraft.
No, I thought those were Russian, but it was right there, Japanese.
See, this Type 92 in the back, it says it was nearly identical to the U.S. Lewis gun. It was used in defensive weapons on the Kate torpedo bomber and the Val dive bomber, which that's actually very interesting. And these were also used in the Val and the Zero. Some of these machine guns were used in the Zero fighter, which there's a Zero over there, I believe.
Huh.
And these are French down here. The Hotchkiss. Oh, right at the back, that's a Soviet gun. That's a Berezin UB 12.50 caliber machine gun, which was used in the Yak 1, 3, 7, and 9, and the Lavochkin LA5 and LA7. The gun design of the UB is very, very interesting. It actually, I gotta give it credit to the Soviet engineers in World War II. Like, this gun has some ridiculously insane moving parts on it. Like, it has an incredibly high rate of fire for its time. It's actually very, very impressive.
And that's Soviet.
Yes, it was a Soviet.
Oh. Ooh, I like that.
Right,
what is this shiny one?
This straight wing plane here is an F-80, a P-80 Shooting Star, I believe, which was kind of a predecessor to the Sabre. It was an early straight wing fighter, but it was one of the first jets that America basically ever used. And this one is an National Guard example, and it served pretty well in Korea and other.
And so, why is it so shiny?
Well, they've obviously polished it up. That's probably wouldn't go into
okay.
Like that. We'll go around the other side here.
Yeah. What is? Okay. Oh, what are these? What are these?
Oh.
Look at that. That looks hella complicated.
This is the Norden bomb sight. This is the very famous bomb sight that B-17 bombers would use to line up their runs for when they would go on attack runs. These things were allegedly very expensive to produce, but there's some people say that the effect of the Norden bomb sight was overstated, and that it was more of a confidence booster than actually making bombs more accurate. But pilots were instructed in World War II to bring this bomb sight with them when they ejected, or to throw it out of the aircraft to make sure it didn't fall into enemy hands.
But it's so heavy. How could they lift it?
It is very well. There's a way to lift, I think, the optic part out, but it is still quite heavy. Yes. So very interesting in that regard.
Look at this one. Look at this one. Look at that.
That's a a very early navigation computer. Like, this would be used in the Cold War. This was actually used in the B-52. This computer. So this thing right here probably has less processing power than a modern day calculator.
Really?
This massive thing. Oh yeah,
are you serious?
Easily. Because it's probably like 50 years old.
And so what would these things do? So
it's a navigation, electromechanical analog computer that would, it would compute position and weapons release points. So this computer would automatically calculate where the best position to release a nuclear bomb was. And right here, this was a F-89D and F-94C radar antenna, the AN APG-40, used on very late 1940s and early 1950s U.S. aircraft. Right up here we have the BAE hot brick, which was I guess a jammer, an IR jammer that would be designed to release a dazzling sort of signals to confuse incoming enemy infrared guided missiles.
Oh wow!
Like heat-seeking missiles, it would confuse.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah. And various kinds of radars and more navigation controllers here. Oh, this is an interesting one. This is a very early German infrared detector, an IR search detector, which would be used by the Germans towards the end of the war. And although German forces field infrared searchlights and this longer range equipment was only beginning in use in multi-dive fighters as the war ended. So the war ended before they could get those in mass production. It's very interesting that Germans had that technology.
Wow. All right. See, this is a blessing of having friends that know everything about these machines.
F-14 85GR, which was rebuilt as an F-14DR. This plane actually saw combat in the January 1989 Gulf of Sidra incident, and this plane shot down a MiG in combat.
Isn't that what Top Gun was mostly based off of, that dogfight at the end of it?
Well, no. That
Wow.
was after Top Gun.
I mean, it's just, it's amazing how much bigger it is than the previous planes. Like,
And as you can see, it has the various kinds of missiles on this plane.
Yeah.
This is the AIM-9 Sidewinder, the short-range IR-guided missile. But the primary weapon of the F-14 was the AIM-54C Phoenix long-range active radar-guided missile. This was a missile that could be fired from 100 miles away, and it was designed to shoot down enemy bombers and incoming enemy cruise missiles. It had a very, very long range, very high-power missile, and it was designed to shoot, because this plane was to defend the carrier from Soviet strike bombers and enemy aircraft coming to destroy the carrier.
Gotcha.
The interceptor. And it could also do dog.
And what is this one? Is this something too?
This is just a fuel tank.
Oh, it's just a fuel tank. Okay.
So they have the fuel tanks as well. And over here you have the U.S. Navy Blue Angels F-18s. The F-18 came to replace the F-14 Tomcat. Well, not replace, but complement it rather. This is it's a smaller airframe overall, but it's much more maneuverable, and well, it still is in service today as the Super Hornet, which has an upgraded radar and upgraded engines. So the F-18 obviously
It's still in use today.
The Super Hornet version is.
Okay.
This is the original F-18 version.
Okay.
And here's a paved-weight laser-guided bomb right here.
Okay.
Which all these planes could use. And here we have a Grumman A-6B Prowler. This is an electronic warfare version of the A-6 Intruder. And this was a jammer aircraft. So this plane would be equipped with very high power radio frequency jammers in the wings and all in the back, and it would be designed to jam and distort enemy signals and degrade enemy radar and missile performance, so that friendly aircraft could operate in the theater better, and enemies aircraft and missiles would be confused and miss their targets and would not be able to lock up.
Okay.
And right here, this is actually the prototype of the F-35. So this is the X-35B Joint Strike Fighter. This is the prototype of the F-35, which is currently in service today. And this is the prototype version of the aircraft, the vertical takeoff and landing version, the BE model. And this is about 26 years old. And this was the prototype which would later go into production as the F-35B. But this was the prototype plane that they used.
And what was the big change when they made this one? Like what?
Well, this has the ability, has a massive engine in the back which can tilt and make it, and it can fly vertically like a Harrier. It can take off and land vertically like a Harrier. Wow. That was the whole point of the F-35 program, was they wanted a vertical takeoff and landing version of the plane to go alongside the conventional air, land, and carrier-based A and C versions.
Okay.
Which unfortunately it did affect the overall aircraft's performance. That's another video. Here we have the Vought RF-8 Crusader. So the F-8 Crusader is one of my favorite planes because it's considered one of the last gunfighters. In the U.S. Navy, in the 1960s, the problem with the F-4 Phantom, which we saw earlier, when it would go up against MiGs, it did not have an internal gun by default until later versions. This plane had 4 20mm guns in the front of it by default, and was known as the last gunfighter. And there was a Navy saying, when you are out of F-8s, you are out of fighters, because it was considered the last true fighter. Very highly maneuverable plane. This is actually the reconnaissance version of this plane. Okay. So the guns were taken out. It was fitted with high-resolution cameras. And this plane actually was used in the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 to fly at very, very low level over Cuba in a reconnaissance flight. If you've seen the movie 13 Days with Kevin Costner, there's a scene in which these fly at like treetop height, and then they're shot at by enemy AA fire, and it's part of the movie. But very, very, very interesting and cool plane. And here we have the A-6 Intruder. So this is the attack version of we saw the EA-6B Prowler. That's the electronic warfare version. This is the attack version of the earlier plane. It's the same airframe. This is the A-6E Intruder, and this plane was the workhorse of the U.S. Navy in an attack role. As you could carry the AGM-84 there. That's the AGM-84 Harpoon. Was the primary, it still is the primary United States Navy anti-ship missile. This plane could carry 4 of them. And to this day, you're right here. For 34 years, the A-6 Intruder was the backbone of Navy and Marine Corps attack aviation, delivering conventional nuclear weapons to any targets, any weather, day or night. When the Intruder was down a target, there was no place to hide. And there's a movie called Flight of the Intruder, which is a really good movie that came out in late 1990, I think, and it's about this plane, and it's a really good movie if you like planes. Okay.
What do we have next?
Well, this is an F-18 Hornet, I guess part of one. I don't know. They only have like.
Thanks, guys.
They only have part of this plane left for some reason. Oh, this is a nose from an F-18 that flew combat missions in Afghanistan shortly after the 9/11 attacks. This aircraft later fought in Operation Iraqi Freedom, and they're going to use this in a future exhibit. So this is actually a nose cone of a real F-18 that saw combat, I guess. They're preserving it here. So that's pretty cool. It was flown by this guy.
You can see the wear and tear on it, eh?
Yeah, you can see that it was actually, this plane actually flew it. So.
Do you think most of the planes you see here never saw, like, combat?
No, that F-14 over there, it killed a Libyan MiG. As I mentioned,
that's right.
Actually shot down a Libyan MiG in combat,
Okay.
that exact aircraft, which is very impressive that they have that here. So right here, this is the North American F-100 Super Sabre. So this was one of the first U.S. planes that could go Mach 2 in level flight. It entered service in the mid-1950s and saw service into the late 1960s and into the Vietnam War. It was just an incredibly fast aircraft it could do attack. It had two cannons in the nose, and it was a very, very fast. Now, of course, it was one of the first. So a lot of the other aircraft that we saw, like the F-4 Phantom and all that, they came later, but this was the first U.S. plane that could do Mach 2 in level flight. And that was huge.
And so Mach 2 in human terms, how
Twice
many?
the speed of sound. So that's about, I don't know, the speed of sound is about 650 miles an hour. So it's like, I don't know, 1,200 miles an hour. So there you can see the maximum speed right here is listed. Sorry, 892 miles an hour is the maximum speed.
Okay.
So, but that's
1.5 kind of.
Yeah, I think it could hit Mach 2 in level flight.
Okay.
There's an interesting painting here. Super Sabres will spawn Tet 1960. The artist depicts the F-100 Super Sabre taking it from Ben Ho Air Base in the first days of the Tet Offensive. So the Tet Offensive during the Vietnam War was when the North Vietnamese really poured it on hard. It was a huge offensive by the North Vietnamese. It caused significant damage to U.S. assets throughout the region. So, though I guess during this, debris on the runway prevented operations until early evening when a number of aircraft took off. The airmen pressed the attacks through a hail of hostile ground fire, made repeated level passes, and silenced all hostile fire directed at their aircraft. So the F-100, even as late as the late 1960s, when it was arguably an obsolete plane already, saw service in Vietnam and was doing ground attack missions.
Huh.
And this airframe was very, 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 very durable, very reliable.
Interesting. What is this nifty little thing, Adam?
This is a drone of some kind, a very early drone. Oh, actually, no, it's a missile. So this is actually the Loon missile. So this is a direct American copy of the V1 flying bomb. Literally called the Loon. So it's literally just a V1 that they just put in the U.S. Dakota paint on.
No way.
This is right after the war.
So this is German basically made, right?
Yeah, Loons can be launched from ground ships or aircrafts. They gained invaluable experience in handling missiles, and the program was canceled, I guess, in 1950, but this gave the U.S. forces valuable experience working with missiles because they never had it before, right? So the Germans were the first, and then these guys, the Americans, came after. So.
Oh, cool.
Well, right here,
what is this?
PBY, it's not a Catalina, it's the Sikorsky JRS. So, wow. So this is the only aircraft that was actually at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. 10 JRS-1s were at the U.S. naval base when the Japanese attacked. This was, it was used from 1937 to 1944 as the military version of the Baby Clipper. On the day of the attack, it had a very colorful paint scheme. A few days after the attack, ground crews repainted the aircraft, but it's weathered and the original paint is peeling through. The current condition is due to many years of storage. So the holes in this are just because of how old it is.
Uh-huh.
But it was at Pearl Harbor on the day, but it's
no way.
Had lots of wear and tear. But it's really cool to see a plane that was actually there on that fateful day.
And so, what would this do? This is a carrier, right?
No, it's a reconnaissance plane designed to actually search for where the enemy fleet is.
Okay.
It has these things have a very, very, very long range.
Look at the engines there. Look like that.
I'm pretty sure I've seen this plane in more than one Indiana
Those
Jones
engines are not from this aircraft.
I understand.
That's a turbine engine. That's not.
I understand.
So this looks like rations that would be issued. The humanitarian daily rations would be dropped from aircraft. I think they dropped these into Gaza recently. These humanitarian daily rations were actually dropped from C-17s into Gaza when they were starving. And these meals are designed to be eaten by anyone. Like they're halal. They have every allergy considered, and like anyone on the planet can eat this meal.
So they're kosher, halal.
Yeah, any person on the planet can eat this meal.
But it can be both, Adam. It can be both.
And can be satisfied calorically.
But it can be both.
I don't know if maybe, sure. Maybe. And we have some engines here.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Engines. So.
Oh, this looks like a way older planes here. World War I, right?
This is World War I. So this, I guess, this engine, the Jupiter 8F, was used. It's a reciprocating 9-cylinder radial engine that was used in a whole bunch of planes there at the bottom throughout the First World War. The Ford Liberty Model 12 Model A, This was used in, oh, the Curtiss NC-4, the first aircraft to crash across the Atlantic Ocean in May 1919.
No way.
So this engine would have powered that.
Wow.
That's really cool. And who do we have here? Charles Edward Taylor.
And who is he?
He constructed the engine that powered the world's first successful airplane. There you go. So this guy made the first engine for the Wright brothers flight.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
I actually didn't remember his name, but that's pretty impressive. Lawrence L3. This powered some ultralight, which operated aircraft carriers in the early 1920s. So one of the first ever carrier-based aircraft.
Huh.
Would use that
Oh
engine.
gosh, look at this wooden one. Oh, that's going way back.
Murray rotary.
Usually these you'd have to crank by hand.
Oh, really?
Actually, have
This,
somebody.
okay, it says it may be a supercharged engine still in existence in the entire world. That is actually impressive.
And so what does supercharged mean?
They have a system in it that's, I can't remember off the top of my
Okay.
head. But it's a way of increasing the, you take the exhaust fumes, I believe, and then feed them back in to get additional power.
Ooh, that looks like a cool helicopter. Look at this.
This is the CH-46
This is-
C-Knight right here.
This is NAM, right? Times?
This is Vietnam.
Yeah.
So it looks a lot like the Chinook, but it's actually not a Chinook because this was used by the Marines and the Chinook was used by the Army. And this plane saw, it actually, when Saigon fell in 1975, this plane would have been doing evacuation missions up and down from the U.S. Embassy getting to the carriers.
No way.
And as you can see there, yeah. It says Republic of Vietnam, April 29th, 1975.
Oh my.
Yes, so used in its final years of service, extensive Vietnam War service. So actually, I think this aircraft may actually have served on April 29th, 1975. So that's
Wow.
April 30th was when it fell.
Oh, okay.
The second last day, and has a POW MIA flight.
How many Marines or men were left behind in Vietnam again?
Nobody knows.
Allegedly.
Nobody knows. See,
Yeah.
In the 1990s, there was the U.S. CIA director went to Moscow after the Soviet Union fell apart to talk to them about missing soldiers. This is actually what the movie Rambo 2 is about.
Yes.
Rambo 2 is about Rambo going back to Vietnam to find allegedly missing Americans that are
That's
still
right.
being held hostage there. And the 90s, Americans were thinking this, the U.S. government was thinking the same thing. They were saying, do the Russians know about POWs that we have in Vietnam that no one ever told us about, that are still there? And allegedly they didn't find anything, but it's a very interesting topic.
Huh.
The suggestion is that most of them were killed.
And do you know a rough number? How many most of them means?
I don't
It's
have
Hundreds?
From what-
Thousands?
From what I have read, again, this is speculative, but around supposedly between 3,000 and 4,000 people never made it out of Vietnam. And
Wow.
then just either died in prison camps or were actively murdered by the communist government. And because America was trying to smooth relations over with Vietnam in the 1980s and 1990s, this really sordid part of history was kind of forgotten. But in certainly kind of more right-wing soldier circles in the late 70s and throughout the 1980s into the 90s, missing POW MIA was very much a cause célèbre.
Wow.
And indeed, I think when Ross Perot, who ran the Reform Party, he in the 90s, he had done a lot of stuff to sort of raising the
issue up again?
yeah, the issue of missing POWs.
Oh, I see. Cool. Adam, come back. We need your
Yeah,
expertise.
we need to hear about the Cobra and the.
Well, right here is the Huey. This helicopter needs no introduction. It's probably the most famous helicopter ever made. The thousands and thousands of these saw combat throughout the Vietnam War, and it was used by countless other
is it
countries
the
around world.
Valkyries? What the
Yes,
Valkyries
yeah, the
would
ones
be?
from the Apocalypse Now, Ride of the Valkyries, when they ride in. This transported countless, hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops in and wounded in and out of combat throughout Vietnam. It enabled the concept of the air cavalry operations, highly mobile infantry forces, and it saved countless lives. It is probably one of the greatest helicopters ever made.
Really?
Oh yeah, without it. And right here is the Cobra. So this is the
Huh.
Huey Cobra. It's the attack. It's based on the Huey, but it's an attack version of the helicopters. You could carry rockets and missiles there, and has a 3-barrel 20mm M197 chain gun in the nose here. And these were used in Vietnam, and actually it is still used today, but in a heavily upgraded version, AH-1 Zulu. This is an AH-1F, so it's Vietnam War era, but the AH-1 Zulu is currently still used by the Marine Corps today.
And so the reason that it's so flat, is it to decrease like the surface that
Yeah,
can be
it's
shot
a,
at?
it's a lot harder. It's very thin, so it's a lot
Right.
harder to shoot at.
Right,
That's-
and it's just two people.
Yes, so it's a pilot and a gunner. The gunner would control this system, and the pilot would fly the aircraft to control, I think, the rocket.
Now,
pod
does the
itself.
gunner sit in the front or
Yes,
the back?
the gunner sits in the front.
Oh,
So you have
really?
a better view.
Okay.
So it's a very workhorse aircraft as well, still in service.
And also Nam, right?
Oh,
Vietnam.
Vietnam originally, yes.
Wow, it just looks so cool.
Yeah,
I love how it
impressive
looks.
aircraft, very impressive.
Wow.
No, it's behind. I don't think they have behind here.
Okay.
Right here, this is an SA-2 Guideline missile. So this is a Soviet SAM. This was one of the first Soviet SAM systems that was ever deployed and used in combat. The SA-2 Guideline, made by the Volkov in the Soviet Union. This missile was used in the Vietnam, shot down Francis Gary Powers, the U-2 in 1960 when he famously flew over the Soviet Union.
Oh.
Shot down Rudolf Anderson over Cuba in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And countless hundreds of these were fired at U.S. planes in the Vietnam War. And this was a very, very dangerous missile. One of the first, but one of the most successful, exported around the world, used by dozens and dozens of Soviet bloc and client state countries, and is a very deadly missile. Shot down countless American planes throughout the Vietnam War, including this plane right here, which is the American F-105 Thunderchief, which was a bomber that had a very, very heavy payload for its time. As you can see, it's a huge aircraft, even bigger than the F-4 Phantom we saw earlier. But the size of this thing, it could carry huge amounts of bomb loads to enemy targets at a very high speed.
Okay.
The problem is, though, these aircraft took very heavy losses. Out of all the American aircraft types in the Vietnam War, the F-105 Thunderchief took probably the worst attrition and loss rates out of any plane.
And why?
And it was actually taken out of service as a result.
Why?
Because it was, if this plane got ambushed by a MiG, it would have no hope of dodging it.
Oh, it's just not movable.
It's not a very maneuverable aircraft.
Okay.
It's fast, it could carry a huge bomb load, but it just can't turn very well. And unfortunately, a lot of them got shot down because they were trying to dodge the aforementioned SA-2 missile, which claimed and shot down many of these.
So why not have like backup planes following this? And
well, they would. These planes would go in and they would have a fighter escort usually, but it didn't always work out.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but still, the F-105 was a very elaborate one. You can see here, it could carry 8,000 pounds of bombs in its weapons bay and 6,000 pounds on its external weapons racks.
Oh, goodness.
By perspective, I think the B-17 could carry, I think, 3,000 pounds of bombs in World War II.
Now,
so this single plane can carry 3 to 4 times as many bombs as B-17.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of talk of planes being blown up, but like, what was the chances of a pilot catapulting out safely out of these situations? Or would it be like too late by the time the missile, like they heard the missile coming kind of thing?
Well, these planes had radar warning receivers, which would mean that they could tell when there was an incoming missile.
Yes.
But they weren't always all that reliable, and sometimes they would fail or they wouldn't give enough warning for an incoming missile, and sometimes you wouldn't get any warning at all. If it's a heat-seeking missile, you're not going to get any warning. Now, in the Vietnam War, they didn't really have a lot of heat-seeking surface-to-air missiles. They had the shoulder-fired launched SA-7 missile, entered service around 1972, which was right at the end of the Vietnam War. But it didn't really see a lot of service in Vietnam itself. But if an infrared-guided surface-to-air missile is fired at you, you have very little warning, at least in that era. In modern era, there are systems that can detect these missiles a lot better.
Okay, cool.
So we're going over here now. This is more specifically, I believe, the World War II side. So yeah, the Tiny Tim, this was the largest American rocket that saw service in World War II. This could destroy coastal defenses, guns, a warhead of 150 pounds, which for a rocket is a lot. So this was just an unguided rocket, but for its time, it was a very, very powerful weapon. Like, it could knock out a bridge in one hit, for instance, as they said in the info bit, which is quite impressive. So pretty cool. This is the Northrop P-61 Black Widow. This is actually a night fighter. So during the Second World War, the Americans had these fighters, which were night fighters, and they were equipped with radars, and these could fly in also all weather conditions. During the Second World War, a night fighter and a radar-equipped night fighter like this was very, very, very niche. No, there were not very many made because they were expensive, and only certain pilots were trained enough to fly them because they were considered like more of it's a much harder to fly a plane at night in World War II because you have very primitive radar, but that's it, right? You have no night vision goggles.
So how did they do it?
They just did. They just improvised. They did what they had to do, and they were able to be somewhat decently successful.
Nice. Oh, this is funky.
I guess this is by Jack Northrop, the N-1M. This is one of the first flying wing designs that he made, and this was, I guess, made in 1929, and was one of the first flying wings ever made. And later, this Jack Northrop would create the XB-35 and YB-49 flying wings. And even later, and you can see that even in the modern B-2 stealth bomber.
Yeah. It's the same
kind of concept as this flying wing from 1929.
Crazy how far back it goes.
But it's the concept of a flying wing. It's just, but the problem is back then it was very difficult because they didn't have computers to make it fly stable. Whereas in modern.
And so what's the benefit of a flying wing?
Well, it's very aerodynamic. It can be very, very aerodynamically stable. But it also can carry, a lot of payload.
Because it's so flat and wide.
Yeah. So,
okay.
If you've seen,
but it's not it's not that maneuverable though. Like you're not going to want to use these.
Right. It just kind of goes straight, right?
Yeah.
Super fast.
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah, not fast really, because the B-2 is not a supersonic plane. Like it's just designed. It's a stealth plane.
Okay.
So it's designed to go slower, but stealth. So the flying wing has its pros and its cons in its design.
So when you say stealth, what makes something stealth?
It's made out of radar-absorbent materials, which deflect and absorb incoming radar.
Well, why can't you make every plane stealth then?
Because it requires special composite materials, which are expensive, and along with other systems required to reduce the radar cross-section, which is the return. Because when you shoot a radar beam at a plane, it has what's called a radar cross-section. So like a certain modern plane will have like something meters squared of return, whereas a stealth aircraft will have less.
Okay.
If you've seen the movie Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the plane that is in that famous scene where Indy's fighting the box and it blows up in, that's a flying wing.
Oh, no way.
Very similar to this basic design.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do we have here?
This is a Japanese aircraft, the J1N1 Gekko Irving. This is apparently the last one of these remaining in the entire world of this aircraft.
Wow.
So this one was modified as a night fighter, and it shot down 2 B-17s to prove its capability. It could have 2 crewmen, so this was a night fighter as well. It had upward firing guns in the rear of the plane. So what this plane would do, and the Germans had a couple of night fighters under this too, it would fly, you can see the guns on the top there.
Yeah.
It would fly underneath a bomber at night, and then it would fire these upward firing guns from underneath the plane up into the bomber and destroy it, and they wouldn't be able to see it coming.
So they would just shoot vertically.
Upwards. And if they did it right, and the enemy bomber would not even know that they were there.
Wow.
So quite an impressive.
That's stealthy.
And you can see the radar, the very early radar system.
It's
in
like
the
antennas,
So this would detect at night the enemy bombers at a very rudimentary range, very rudimentary picture, but it was enough to be able to discern that there was something there.
And so, is there lights on those at all, or like no lights whatsoever?
No, nothing. No lights. No, definitely not.
So how would they land?
Well, if they would get to an airstrip, there would be lights on the ground.
Okay.
Hopefully.
All right. Oh gosh.
Oh wow.
What is this?
This is the Dornier 335 push-pull plane. So this has a propeller in the front and it has a propeller in the back. It's called a push-pull design because the propeller in the back
there's
is
a swastika.
Yes. Well,
wow.
Obviously.
Oh, it's a German one.
It's a German plane. So this so it would pull from the front and push from the back at the same time. And this is the only one in the entire world that actually, again, still exists at this point.
No way.
This plane featured in Battlefield 1942 secret weapons of the Luftwaffe and of the Wehrmacht, I believe. And its design was very interesting because, yes, it could go really fast because it had 2 propellers, one in the front and one in the back. But the war ended before it could go into serious mass production. As with many, many German designs. At the end of the war, the Germans, even though their country was completely destroyed, completely bombed, they had nothing left, they had no factories left, they were still able to create crazy designs like this. But they just couldn't produce them because they had no factories left.
And so did anybody take this technology and kind of develop it?
Well, this was captured right here. The U.S. Army captured this in April 1945, and they tested it from 1945 to 1948. And the Smithsonian acquired it in 1961. In 1974, it was returned to Germany, and it was restored. And it was displayed at the Deutsches Museum in Munich until 1991, and I guess the Smithsonian got it back after that.
Wow.
So very, very cool plane. Very, very cool.
Well, it's just strange that nobody picked up that technology and kind of pushed it forward. It's unique. 2 propellers.
So this is the J7W1 Shinden, or what's left of it anyway.
So again, Japanese, obviously.
Yeah, and this had, I think, 2 propellers in the front. Pusher propellers in the front.
Okay, so the same kind of idea.
No, wait. No. Sorry.
Nope.
the plane is like this, and there's 2 propellers in the back.
In the back?
So they're pusher configuration, as I said. So the
that
propellers
is a weird...
push it through the air.
That's
and
strange.
There are only 2 prototypes were completed, and this is one of the prototypes. So obviously,
No
you can see it's in very poor condition, but I believe this is one of 2 left in the entire world with this. So
interesting.
very cool. Like even at the end of the war, even the Japanese were experimenting with some pretty impressive technology at the end of the war too. Like again, Japan was totally being firebombed, nuked. Like well, even before the atomic bombs, it was being firebombed daily into oblivion, and they were still able to design things like this too. Quite impressive.
Very interesting.
Hey, look, it's a Nick.
It's a Nick. That's me.
That's you.
That is me.
TI-45 Toru Nick. This is the night fighter version of the plane, which I guess it also has 2 upward firing guns, which it was
so
again,
the same thing
designed as a night fighter, because night fighters were designed to shoot down bombers, so they had these vertical pointed guns.
Okay. Huh. What do we have here?
Oh, so this little guy, this is really cool. This is the FA-330A, this was a little scout helicopter, which was one of the first helicopters in the world that could fly 53 kilometers, and this was designed to be hidden in the conning tower of a U-boat.
Oh,
so this would go underwater, and the U-boat could surface, and a guy could get in this, fly up and around, and do recon around the area of the submarine in this little auto gyro. It's crazy. It was literally hidden in the U-boat's conning tower. U-boat commanders dislike the aircraft because it gave away their position, and only Type 9 D2 U-boats in the Indian Ocean would deploy them with limited. The concept of a helicopter that could be deployed from a submarine was unbelievable. Like nobody had ever. Nobody even had helicopters. No matter a helicopter could be deployed, and this is what the Germans were thinking of. Again, they were losing the war, but they could do insane, ingenious things like this.
Right. So where would the gas? Where's the gas on this one? Would be? Is there something missing here? Or like what?
I think.
I guess it wouldn't go that far, so you probably don't need that much of a gas load, right?
It could. Oh no, sorry. He could fly 700 feet where he could see 53 kilometers away.
Okay.
So how much fuel it had?
So probably very little, right?
Probably not. No. Probably. I would guess less.
Just up and down sort of thing. Okay. What is this beast of the thing?
This is a Siren float plane. So this is a very cool plane as well. There's very few of these remaining. As a matter of fact, this actually may be. Yes, this is the only surviving one in the entire world of this era. So the Japanese had a massive submarine called the I-400 Sentoku class, a huge class of submarines, and this submarine could launch this seaplane from within it. And in this I-400, the Japanese were planning to devise this idea as a means for striking directly the United States and the Panama Canal. So these submarines, the I-400 class, could travel so far and carry these seaplanes. But the idea was, and this plan was in motion right at the end of World War II. These submarines were sent to the Panama Canal, the west coast of the United States, to bomb the Panama Canal locks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's actually unbelievable.
And did they succeed in any of these missions?
No Syrian ever saw combat because the war ended before it could happen. So right here, this was the only surviving Syrian in the world. Imperial Japanese Navy Lieutenant Kazuko Akatsuka ferried this Syrian from Fukuyama to Yokosuka and surrendered to an American contingent.
I have to say I'm impressed by the Japanese planes. I never knew
the fact that this could fit, again, in an underwater aircraft carrier. Think about this.
Craziness.
A submarine aircraft carrier.
So how would they put it together?
Well, the wings would be folded.
Okay.
Of course, the wings would be folded, and it would go in here. As
okay.
You can see. This is where the seaplane would be fitted.
Huh?
Yes, submarine. Yes. Yes.
That's very cool.
Because we're actually Japanese.
I know.
That's really cool. And right here we have the Arado AR-234 jet bomber. This is one of the first jet bombers in the entire world right here. One engine on each side. This actually saw combat service. Well, less famous than the 262, the Arado AR-234 provided excellent service and was used also as a reconnaissance plane because this thing could fly really high and was very difficult to shoot down at the time. And actually, this is the only one left in the entire world.
So can I ask you something? Why some of these have like full glass, some of them have like half glass top?
I think because again, the Arado was used a lot for reconnaissance, so I believe they would have this glass design
just to give
visibility, pilots more visibility to see.
Gotcha.
There's a guy, potentially also a guy looking down, sort of through the glass at the ground below with like some sort of sight.
Oh, this is a...
You can see. Yeah, there'd be a dive bomb site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Same
yes,
reason
it's
that-
really cool. The dive bomber site there. This is where the pilot would go in. All of these. He had a flare pistol, an oxygen system, bomb release.
Wow.
Very cool how they give you a pilot.
No kidding. Okay, let's talk about these ones.
So this is a German, again, another German night fighter. Again, note the very large and impressive radar array, because again, this is what a German night fighter, the HE219 Eagle Owl, and heavily armed with 8 cannons. It says it was one of the most formidable night fighters, and I believe it actually was. And look, actually, it actually even had an ejection seat, one of the first aircraft to have an ejection seat. I actually did not even know that.
Really?
That is extremely impressive. So this one was built in late 1944 and is the only one left in the entire world again. The British forces captured it in Denmark and turned it over to the United States and has undergone meticulous restoration. Very impressive.
So what's up with the funky camouflage?
The camouflage, well...
Is there any particular to?
No, because look, it's dark on the bottom.
Yeah.
So from the ground up at night, and then from...
okay.
If you're looking down from above,
It blends in with the
it blends
ground.
in with the ground.
Okay.
If that was the theory, anyway. But it is,
Yeah.
I don't know how well it would work in practice, but it is
Yeah.
an interesting,
Very
interesting concept.
cool. Look at that, guys. Wow. And what is this?
Tell us about the Focke-Wolf, Adam.
This is the Focke-Wulf 190. This is, along with the Bf-109, one of the main German fighters of the Second World War. Arguably, in some ways, better than the Bf-109, depending on who you ask. It had a radial engine. It had better overall, I would say, climb performance, and it could retain energy very well.
But it's still worse than MiG, right?
It was later used, well, MiG. I mean, in World War II, the Soviets had MiGs, but they like MiG-1, MiG-3, MiG-5,
I know.
but they were kind of crap. But the Focke-Wulf 190 was used a lot as a bomber. As you can see there, it has a bomb slung underneath its wing, and it was used a lot in close air support missions. Right here, this one was the Focke-Wulf 190 F8, which was manufactured as an A7 fighter. Then it was redesignated as a fighter bomber, and ground attack unit SG2. And looks like it was shipped to Indiana and transferred to the Smithsonian in the late 1940s.
So can I ask you something? This one, the pilot sits sort of almost back, like in the back end, almost. Wouldn't that be hard for him to see through this huge bulge in front of him?
Well, no, actually, the visibility was pretty good on this plane.
Yeah?
I remember hearing.
Because it's just such an unusual place to put the pilot in.
Well, look at the equivalent American attack aircraft. Right here, this is the famous Republic P-47 Thunderbird.
Oh, okay.
As you can see here, it has a bubble canopy as well. A little bit better visibility because it's a bubble.
Yeah.
But this was the American workhorse attack aircraft of World War II. Heavy payload, 8 machine guns, great fighter bomber. Saw service the Battle of the Bulge all the way up to the end of the war, and even before. It was an absolute workhorse of a
Look how
plane.
many machine guns. Look,
8
1,
50
2.
caliber machine guns.
Wow. And what is that? What's that little stick on the end of the wing?
I think it's a pitot tube to measure like air and
okay.
air resistance and pressure. I think anyway.
And why would they do it so brightly colored nose? Like, wouldn't you want to hide? Like, why would you?
I don't know if that's how it would be painted in combat.
Oh, okay.
That might just be a decorative.
For show, yeah.
a
Okay.
decorative thing for show, yeah.
Okay. Wow. Beautiful. Okay. What's next? What is? Oh my God! This place is huge, Adam.
Well, right here you have an exhibit about Charles Lindbergh, the first man to cross the Atlantic Ocean by himself, in the spirit of St. Louis when he flew from New York to Paris in 1927. So this is I think the coat that he wore. That's his watch. I wonder what kind of watch it is. It looks pretty cool. There's a sculpt of him there. His flying gloves, snake bite serum, carbonized petroleum. So this is all the survival equipment that Lindbergh would have taken with him in the late 1920s, and I guess he actually even took a rifle with him, a Winchester model.
What happened to him? Do you know? Did he survive? Did he fight in the World War II later?
He did. He survived this flight, and he became as a fervent isolationist. He did not want America to enter World War II. He was very against the United States entering World War II, especially in the European theater.
Until Pearl Harbor. And
Yes.
then, like many Americans, after Pearl Harbor, he supported the war effort. Maybe not wholeheartedly, but very enthusiastically. I think he did some service in the Pacific.
He did, yes. He did
Yes.
service. He did some service in the Pacific, and after the war, he was involved in some various aviation companies until eventually, I think he passed away in Hawaii. He was buried on the island of Maui in Hawaii, I believe near Hana, on the Hana Highway, and in the early 1970s.
But he wasn't German, because his last name is German.
He was of German descent, yes.
Okay.
German and Swedish.
And Swedish. Okay. Oh my God! Look at that huge thing, Adam. What is that?
Bomber?
The top one.
I believe this is the Enola Gay. I believe this is the plane that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima.
Are you serious?
Yes, I believe this is it.
Do you think it's the actual one?
Right?
I believe it is the Enola Gay. I think you could actually go
Wait.
on that catwalk there.
Okay.
We'll have to go to, but I'm
You think
almost
that
certain-
might be
Yeah, this
the
is
actual one?
Yes, this is the
No.
actual one, yes. You can see it right there. That's it. This is the plane that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima.
Okay.
Well, the Enola Gay was the plane that dropped the atomic bomb. I believe it was Fat Man, which was the not the gun type bomb, but the explosive lens type bomb, which was the more successful of the two designs on Hiroshima on August 6th, because the Hiroshima bombing came before the Nagasaki bombing.
Yes, correct.
And it's always, everyone always remembers the Enola Gay because the one that dropped, they always forget about the other one that dropped the bomb on Nagasaki. The Enola Gay is by far the most famous plane. People even remember the commander of this, Paul Tibbets, I think was his name. The commander of this plane who dropped the bomb, the atomic bomb, which obviously one of only 2 nuclear weapons to have ever been used in anger in history, and hopefully will continue to be that way. But
So,
yeah, the B-29.
I love no smoking within 100 feet.
This plane, the B-29 Super Fortress, cost more than the Manhattan Project.
Are you serious?
Yes.
No.
This plane took an unbelievable amount of engineering and design and technology and research.
And why?
Because it was pressurized, it had redundant systems everywhere, 4 very powerful engines, remotely controlled guns, just all kinds of things. And the Soviets got their hands on one of these and reverse engineered it as the Tu-4
Oh, okay.
bomber. And Stalin actually ordered them to copy it down to the exact nut and bolt.
And did they?
The Soviets were able to, it took them a few years, but they were able to actually copy it and reproduce it, much to the chagrin of the West.
So, Adam, are you saying this is the actual plane?
This is the actual, yes. This is the plane that actually dropped the bomb.
So you're checking, so this is the world's deadliest weapon.
Yes, technically speaking, this plane has killed more people than any other
weapon
single in history ever.
This is just as much of a weapon that killed all these people as the atomic bomb. That's what I'm saying, right?
Yes. Okay, I see what you're saying. The B-29 deserves the credit just as much as the actual bomb does.
Yeah.
And because that's the thing. Like, you watch Oppenheimer, it's all about the bomb.
That's right.
Does anybody talk about the plane? Well, I mean, I care about the plane.
Yeah.
But the scientists and get all the credit. Oppenheimer gets all the credit for making the bomb, but the plane that delivered it deserves just as much credit.
Man, this is dark. So, like, how many people died again in Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Both?
Well, sorry, this one then.
Hiroshima, I think, I don't remember the number. It was 50 to 80,000 people.
Jesus.
I think it's 80,000.
I think it's 80,000.
And that includes those killed in the initial blast and those who died of
radiation poisoning and
which
sickness
is a
and burns.
really bad way to go.
Was a huge number of people.
Do you
who were
think
killed by
there's
that.
still radiation left on the plane itself?
Not at this point.
Not at this point?
It would probably have had some for a while, but like it.
Any radiation on that plane, even during the time, would probably have been a very small, benign amount.
Because they managed to get at least a few miles away before it was.
Yes. Yeah.
But it is unbelievable to be actually in the same room and see with my own eyes.
So this is like
this plane.
This
it's
is one of
actually
the
pretty incredible.
So this is like one of the most deadliest things human ever created.
Basically.
That is nuts. Wow. So, Adam, riddle me this. So when they were dropping the bomb, would the bomber be looking out from that same window right there?
I believe so. Now the procedure to release the nuclear bomb is not the same as because they had to load. Each of these bombs had a plutonium core, which had to be loaded into the bomb. It was called a pit, and the pit had to be loaded into the bomb during flight.
Yeah.
Because this was a safety thing, and for many years after, American nuclear bomb designs required the pits to be carried separately and then loaded during flight. Because once you put that pit in there, the bomb is essentially armed and...
Right, you can't reverse it.
It's not easy to take.
Yeah, okay.
And only specially modified B-29s, which are called silver plate B-29s, could deliver the bomb, to deliver a nuclear bomb.
Okay.
They were specially modified with a lot of modifications. I don't know the exact list, but only certain B-29s could actually deliver the bomb.
Wow.
Not all B-29s were nuclear capable.
Okay.
And even after World War II ended, when the Americans were beginning to confront the Soviets in the beginnings of the Cold War, they only had so many B-29 silver plates available, and they had more. Eventually ended up with more bombs than I think nuclear capable B-29s.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
For a while.
So once he would put the pit in, then he would like sit there, right? And look down and calculate where to drop the bomb. Is that true?
I believe so. And obviously the atomic bomb has a way different drag profile. Like it falls completely differently from a normal bomb.
So
because of its weight.
So the last glance at Hiroshima was looked through the glass.
But there were also a lot of chase planes, and there were a lot of other planes that were with filming the Enola Gay and filming other aircraft around it during the time. That's how you get the footage of the bombs, because other aircraft recorded the videos of the bomb exploding.
And how many people were manning this plane?
That is a good question. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think there would be a pilot, a co-pilot, a commander, a bombardier, probably 2 or 3 gunners.
More than that, probably 4 or 5.
But the B-29 had less gunners because there was more automation over the B-17. Okay. But because of the special nature of this mission, I think there were more people on board the plane than there would normally be.
Just in case.
So probably I'd say 10. I'd have to, again, don't quote me on this.
Do you know anything about the people that were inside that plane? What happened to them? Did they kind of have a,
Well, the commander, Paul Tibbets, I think he actually only died like 20 years ago or something. He lived a very long time.
Were they ever regretful what they did, do you think?
I think there was an interview with Paul Tibbets, I think, out there, and he was asked about this like in the 70s and the 80s, like if he regrets what he did, and he says no. He said he would do it again if he was given the chance, because to end the war, to save American lives. Because remember, the alternative to this was the United States invades Japan, and hundreds of thousands of men died on those beaches of Japan. And I don't know if you know this, but they made so many Purple Hearts in World War II in preparation for Operation Olympic, which was the name of the American.
Oh, so they were already ready.
Yes, they made hundreds of thousands of Purple Hearts. And to this day, I think they're still using that stock of Purple Hearts.
No way.
Also,
because they expected ridiculous casualties.
The Japanese military command was actually still not going to surrender even after the second bomb. It was Emperor Hirohito himself who intervened and basically told the leaders of the IIIA and the IJN, Imperial Japanese Army, Imperial Japanese Navy, stand down because I will not have a country to rule if you do not surrender. At this point, also, the Soviets are invading Manchuria and have just entered the war. So it's all over for Japan at this point. Yeah.
Man, but I still can't wrap my head around that this is the actual
weapons.
Like it's this machine is just as responsible for the death of 50,000 people as the atomic bomb.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That is nuts. That is nuts. Wow. Dark. Very dark.
A Lufthansa, this is a Junkers Ju-52, a beautiful tri-engine
Lufthansa
from the early era of civil aviation, the golden age, some people would say.
Why golden?
Well, it's just, I mean, look at this plane. Look at just how nice look at how nice it is.
It does look beautiful. It looks Art Deco, it's very
out of like a movie, an art piece. Like, it's just you don't have this anymore.
No, and why the ribbed wings? Like, what's up with that? For aerodynamics?
I think at the time that was considered the best way to design a wing. Let's see if the this one is actually a Spanish-built Casa 352.
Okay,
it's a Spanish-built copy of the Ju-52.
It looks beautiful. You're right. Wow.
So this is Amelia Earhart's, I guess, clothes that she was, or not. I don't know if this is the exact one, but this is like a replica of the clothing she was wearing when she disappeared on her famous transatlantic flight across the Atlantic Ocean. Everybody says that she disappeared near Bermuda, but nobody really knows what happened to her for sure. I mean, do you have any theories?
No. I've heard various stories that there was foul play or that she was kidnapped by the Japanese. But to be honest, I think, frankly, in this one, Occam's razor, the simplest explanation. I think she just crashed somewhere in the sea and died.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what the heck is this? Sky Baby.
This world's smallest piloted aircraft.
Is this the deadliest one ever created?
I don't want. Did this thing actually fly?
Apparently so.
What the heck?
This looks like something out of a cartoon.
That looks like something out of a Hayao Miyazaki movie.
Yeah, literally like a Japanese Miyazaki movie film.
Yeah. Adam, I heard this was one of the most widely used ones in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, this. You know how many people this killed? This is deadlier than the Enola Gay. This thing, oh my god.
Something extremely similar to this was in the James Bond movie Octopussy.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you are correct. I don't remember what it was called in that movie, but this...
Yes,
right.
it's not
this.
Is
that the way he flies it through the hangar sideways,
and
there's a missile chasing after him, and then the missile explodes in the hangar and blows everybody up, but Bond is saved.
Yes, and that is an extremely similar to this kind of...
Yes, it's the BD-5B.
Who made this?
Two guys, Albert Beckwith and Peter Grachin. Yeah, it was designed to be like a private plane that for $3,000 you could have your own plane. Now, of course, in reality, that it's not,
You can't.
That's not really what it is.
In reality, you just can't.
In reality, you get bits.
This big silver one, Adam.
So this, I believe, is a boat. So this is a Pan Am. It says PAA, Pan Am Aviation. That is, I believe, it's a Boeing Stratocruiser. So this plane saw service in the 1940s and was kind of one of the first planes that had a true, really long over-continental continental range, like right here. It's a 307 Stratoliner, so not Stratocruiser. Yeah, so in 1938, it could carry 33 passengers, 20,000 feet, and it could fly above bad weather. And it used the B-17's engines, that's right. So this plane was one of the first that could fly above weather and have a super long range, and it was the ultimate comfort. Like
It almost looks like a Zeppelin.
the comfort on board this plane was amazing. Like
Look, it looks like a Zeppelin almost.
Yeah, it does actually look like a Zeppelin. It has the very
Yeah.
you can see the rivets. Like you just look at the rivets there.
So this was like people would travel in this for leisure, right?
Well, it had a very long range. Like you could fly across the world in this. Now you had to stop, but
Yeah.
it was quite ahead of its time. It was 1938. Remember that?
Was it pretty safe? Like, did these things crash a lot, or?
There were some crashes. I mean, aviation aviation as a whole back then was still very dangerous.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it is today. It was quite dangerous.
Yeah.
I noticed we have a Star Wars fighter over here.
Oh, well, Linder, do you know much about this?
It's not a huge. I mean, so apparently there's an actual. It's either a drone or something else, but it's.
Did this fly?
It's developed. It's supposed to look like the X-wing, which are the rebel fighters in.
That's right.
Star Wars franchise. Vaguely based off of. I don't know.
But it looks like it might have flown. Look, it has these little drone wings.
Yeah, so this is an actual drone.
Okay.
That's dressed up as a it's designed for
That's pretty neat.
Disney World thing apparently.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I just think it's funny that there's a
That is
Star
funny.
Wars plane here.
Adam, tell us what's right directly above us.
Well, you can't see it right now because this is like a bad view, but right above us is the only supersonic airliner to ever enter service, the BAC Aerospatiale Concorde.
And who made them?
Air France and British Aerospace Systems, or BAE Systems. A beautiful, elegant aircraft that was taken out of service too soon because of a stupid accident that wasn't even its fault.
Agreed.
But it was a beautiful, elegant aircraft from a time in which people built things just because they were cool and beautiful. And no, people don't do that anymore because it doesn't make money, and that's the problem with today's society.
And Adam, how fast would it go from, let's say, London
Twice
to...
the speed of sound. So it could go Mach 2 once it got up to its cruising altitude of 60,000 feet.
So you
and
could
it could
be in
cross the
London
Atlantic.
from-
You could go from New York to London in just over 3 hours.
That's crazy, as compared to like 8 or 9,
It's about
right?
seven and a half.
Yeah.
So
And
half the amount of time. So ultra-rich businessmen who were transatlantic jet setters, who they could literally have a meeting in London in the morning or vice versa in New York and be home in time for dinner in either city.
Have you known anybody or read somebody who like been on it, and like what did it feel like?
I personally have not met anyone who's been on it, but I've heard from people. I know of people who have, and they said that, yeah, it was unlike any other experience that they've ever had. Now, the good thing is that there is a company called Boom Supersonic, which is working on bringing back a supersonic aircraft.
Okay.
And hopefully it ends up being successful. But the problem is everyone is worried that it just won't be economical, right?
Right.
The problem with the Concorde is, even with its ridiculously high ticket prices, it still had trouble making money.
Adam, why are the windows so small?
Because at extremely high altitudes and speeds, the temperature and pressure on those points is very, very high. So the windows cannot be big because it's a failure point.
Okay.
I'm surprised it even has windows, to be honest.
And
outside the
and
front,
so
obviously.
it crashed a few times or once?
It only crashed once. It was Air
failed
France.
landing, right?
No, it was a takeoff. Air France
Okay.
flight 4390 in 2002. A piece of a DC-10 fell off on the runway, and the Concorde was taking off, and this piece of metal was kicked up by the tires and went into the fuselage, ingested in the fuselage and the engine of the Concorde. The Concorde then took off, but it had a huge fire trailing behind it, and the fire got worse as they were trying to take off, and eventually they lost control of the aircraft, and the Concorde flew into a hotel, and everyone on board the plane and a few people on the ground were killed. I think in total 90 or around 90 people were lost their lives.
Gee, that's so,
and unfortunately,
so that was the last nail.
Because at the time, the Air France and British Airways were talking about how it was already starting to lose money, and they decided that was just the nail in the coffin, which is very unfortunate, because everyone who's ever been on this plane or flew it, and I've read interviews of captains and first officers who flew this plane. They were just, you were on another world when you were, another planet, another world when you were flying at 60,000 feet at Mach 2. There was nothing like it, and nothing ever will compare unless they bring out with the new supersonic planes.
Interesting. What is this? U.S. Air Force.
Where? Oh, this is a Lockheed Super Constellation. So this, the Super Connie, as it was called, this is a transport, the C-121. So they had the Lockheed Constellation and the Lockheed Super Constellation. And these were built by Lockheed in the 1940s and 50s, and they were very, very successful airliners used in civilian travel, but also in military transport. And they were just a very reliable four-engine transport that was quite efficient for the time and could transport a large amount of weight along a large number of people a long distance, and that's what made it. And then there were military versions of this. The EC-121 was an electronic warfare version, which was actually shot down in 1969 by the North Koreans over the sea of the ocean near Korea. It was shot down by the North Koreans. It actually almost sparked war between the United States and the Nixon administration. The Nixon administration in North Korea. Sorry.
Okay. This is Japanese Sea, isn't it? Isn't it Japanese Sea?
The Sea of Japan. Well, yeah, sort of. Yeah, the Sea of Japan. Only 8 hours, but the Marine Corps did not accept this because of its slow speed and because it had no armor.
But also, it's like
look at it. The idea was that any soldier could just jump on this and then.
I mean, it makes sense.
What do you do with it? You're a sitting duck and you can't fly that.
And you have no weapons. And dude, some guy shoots you with like a BB gun and you're fucking dead.
But you know what? This kind of reminds me of that German one we saw, the submarine one. Doesn't it?
It does sort of remind me a little bit of the submarine. It's a little bit bigger, obviously.
A little bigger.
The aircraft was small enough that it could be parked in the garage.
And those are funky helicopters. Ooh, what is this?
This is the Pratt & Whitney engine used on the Boeing 777-200ER and the Pratt & Whitney 4098. So, do you not realize how big these aircraft engines are? Because they always have the cowling over it. You see how the engine is completely laid out. This is where the air comes in from this side, and it goes through these stages, and it's a high bypass ratio to compress and put fuel in the air to come out. I believe, that's the front.
Okay.
I believe.
Adam, tell me about this one. So, come here. So what about this one? I heard this one was quite
very important.
Quite important during the
M600 JP. Man,
yeah.
This is a great front end loader. Like, dude, look at this.
Can you say this was a workhorse of the generation?
Oh yes, very effective.
Now, is this
I can assure you, very effective.
Is this the show coloring, or was it actually colored like that in the battle?
Orange during the battle, of course.
Okay, wow.
The Chads.
Fantastic. Fairchild. Star and Stripes.
Oh.
What is this?
This was flown by Richard E. Byrd on an Antarctic expedition, so that's really cool. So this was actually flown by the famous American explorer Richard E. Byrd over the Antarctic expeditions in the 1920s and 1930s. So in the 1900s, 1930s, the Americans and British and a lot of other countries really wanted to explore the Antarctic, and they went all out. And Richard E. Byrd was a pretty famous American explorer.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they ran into the mountains of madness. This is a solar-powered flying, right?
Yes. I actually think I read an article about this thing like a million years ago.
So this
is the plane that would deliver airmail back in the 1920s.
Oh, no way.
So a lot of the aviation industry really actually got a start because of the airmail. People thought, holy shit, we can deliver letters a million times faster through the air. And that was really a attractive concept to people back then. Because imagine
rudimentary email. Right?
Imagine a letter could get into someone in like two or 3 days instead of like 3 weeks.
Right. You know what's interesting? How much it looks like almost like old-fashioned tractor or something like that.
Yeah, so these early planes, you can see the influence from like contractors.
Yeah, interesting. And Adam, what's the benefit of double wings? Why? What's
Well, they were generally more stable back in the day, because at this point people weren't really ready to make monoplanes that could fly really reliably yet. So biplanes were considered more stable and could fly easy, more maneuverable, and could be easier to fly.
There were even triplanes.
do we still have any planes today that use the bi-wing?
Well, crop dusters.
Oh yeah.
Crop dusters are even biplanes to this day. There's some monoplane, but biplanes are just easy to fly.
And would they be safer?
They have such low speeds that they're very easy to fly, and they're very easy to recover. Like with a biplane, if you ever go to an air show, all of those trick planes that do ridiculous stunts in the air, they're all biplanes, because the maneuverability that a biplane offers is unparalleled. You could do maneuvers in a biplane that you just cannot do in a monoplane. You will stall. And it's
probably safer. Like you can, like if it's not going that fast, you can
it goes extremely slow. The stall speed of a biplane can be like 20 or 30 knots.
Oh gosh, okay. Like what is this? What is this weird thing? Oh, that's Zeppelins.
Oh, so this overflew the Super Bowl many times.
No way.
Yes, this is like a Goodyear blimp. This is the control car for the Goodyear blimp. Yeah.
Bro, that's cool.
That's quite cool.
That is. And why the bags?
That's to weigh it down. The weigh down.
Ballast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do we still have Zeppelins today?
Yes, but most of them are used now for stuff literally like filming sporting events and tourism. Much like the Concorde, the Hindenburg disaster
kind of put the end to that.
Kind of put the kibosh on Zeppelins, which is a shame, because Zeppelins and airships basically have all the advantages of both a balloon and a helicopter together as one. They, like a balloon, they don't really need to rely on just gasoline fuel. They can rely on just a gas, like helium, which doesn't. And like a helicopter, they can basically, hover, land, and fly wherever.
That's right.
Yes.
Is there a push to bring back Zeppelins?
No, because the problem is even though they are a very versatile aircraft, they're a million times slower for passenger service or hauling freight or whatever else you would potentially use. The only thing actually where there has been some interest in Zeppelins is military, with the idea of like high altitude bombers.
Okay.
Because
it's reconnaissance
and high altitude
the
Chinese
hard to shoot.
The Chinese balloons.
Zeppelin.
And the Chinese weather balloons.
Yeah, a helium-filled Zeppelin is very hard to shoot down, because
and look at the Chinese weather balloons. They had to send the F-22 up with and they were not used to shoot down. So it's very, very interesting.
Have you seen up close what that balloon looked like? Like, what was the
Chinese balloon?
Yeah, what was the design of it? Was it just a balloon, like literally just a balloon?
They had pictures of the destroyed one. Because it went down in the ocean, and I think the U.S. Navy recovered it. From what I understand. So right here we have this was donated by Marcel and Serge Dassault, which the Dassault family is a very famous French aviation family that creates. They made the Mirage fighter jet. I don't think there's a Mirage in this museum, and many other. This right here. This is the jet that bears the name, the Dassault Falcon 20.
Okay.
This was one of the first really successful private jets in the world. This was so Federal Express. This is the old FedEx livery, Federal Express.
Ah, yeah, of course.
It revolutionized air express in 1973 when it pioneered the overnight delivery of high priority packages. And a cargo door right there. It was fast, reliable, and it can reach any point in the United States from its Memphis, Tennessee hub. This airplane, Federal Express, is first named Wendy after the daughter of FedEx founder Frederick W. Smith. It was donated to the Smithsonian in 1983. They produced 500 of these things. It is a very, very, very successful private jet.
And so, why did they stop?
Well, because they came up with a better version.
Ah, okay.
These early versions, as you can see, it has that engine right there. That's a turbojet. That's not a turbofan.
Wow.
So turbojet is a different design than a turbofan and significantly less efficient. But in the late 1960s, this is all they had.
Oh, look, General Electronics.
Yeah, it's a General Electric CF700 engine.
Interesting. What is this, Adam?
JT-15D improved the performance of small business aircraft considerably. The Pratt & Whitney Canada made this engine in 1966 at the request of Cessna to power the Cessna Citation, which is one of the first and very successful Cessna private jets. So this was made by Pratt & Whitney Canada in Longueuil, Quebec. A lot of people forget that Canada's aviation industry was and still it was more successful back in the day, but it still has a lot of influence over global aviation and design technology, like this engine right here powering the Cessna Citation, a very, very, very popular and prominent.
How did Canada just kind of wake up one day and went to be a leader in aviation?
We had the Avro Aero program that we were building our domestic fighter jet, but it was After it was shut down by the Diefenbaker government in 1958, all of the aerospace engineers went to go work on the Apollo program, and it was considered a huge, huge brain drain from from Canada.
Is there a single Aero model left anywhere, or were all of them destroyed?
No, all of the Avro Aeros were destroyed on orders from the government, right? All the Avro Aero prototypes were destroyed.
Why would they do that? That seems like a self-sabotage.
They didn't want it to fall into Soviet hands was the cope, but at the end of the day...
But how?
I don't know. I feel like that's a cope.
It was... This is, again...
Black Day in Canadian.
This is, again,
Black
one of these
Monday
things that's
called.
very controversial.
The day they canceled the Avro Aero was called Black Monday.
Yeah. This is another thing that's very controversial and hotly debated. Basically, I'm sure Adam has said that there was a lot of tussling between Diefenbaker and Eisenhower. And Diefenbaker didn't really get along with any kind of the American presidents. He was very much a Canada first guy.
JFK hated him even more. Actually.
Yes, yeah.
Famously, JFK called Diefenbaker a boring old bastard, and the Democrats and JFK deliberately campaigned for the Pearson government. Pearson in the 1963 Canadian election.
There's a
good
good book called The Duel about Diefenbaker and Pearson. But returning to the subject, the Avro Aero was supposed to be Canada's sort of guarantee against Soviet aggression.
Okay.
A lot of people in the American government felt that this was kind of stepping on their turf, especially in terms of how long-range missiles and stuff, which was the American idea of continental defense. And the American government put a lot of pressure, officially, unofficially, on the Canadian government to sort of scrap the Avro Aero program. And how much of that is kind of Canadian nationalistic myth and how much of it's truth is something that people debate quite a bit.
Okay. But tell me the specifics of the Aero. Was it good? Like, was it actually...
For the time, it was a pretty advanced fighter interceptor, and it had a lot of concepts and systems, radars, and weapons that if had been developed more, could have been very effective and highly advanced for the time. But the Americans were also working on their own interceptor at the time, though, called the XF-108 Rapier, and that program was ultimately also canned because the theory at the time was that manned interceptors would not be useful anymore because of the advent of the ICBM, or the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. But this turned out to be kind of a cope because the American U.S. Air Force and National Guard for many years would use the F-102 and F-106 fighter interceptors to defend the U.S. homeland against incoming Soviet bombers. These fighters saw service into the 1980s even. And the Aero probably could have done the same if it had been produced. But at the time, people were just thought that the future would be the missile and not the bomber. But in reality, what ended up happening is the nuclear weapons became a triad. ICBMs, bombers, and submarine launched missiles. So the bomber was still an important weapon in nuclear war. But people thought that the missile would totally get phased out, which didn't happen.
Which didn't happen. Interesting.
Speaking of the Hindenburg, there's a 126 model.
Oh, look at that. You're right.
Yes. And a whole display on Zeppelins.
I like Zeppelins. I don't know why, but it's just...
Yes, no, they're very cool.
They're
steampunk.
Aesthetically beautiful.
They represent a time in aviation where, the sky was the limit and bigger is better. And it was true tragedy that their reign was cut so short.
And so, okay, tell me, so on the Zeppelins, where would people sit? Is it just only up there, or was there like compartments inside all throughout?
They typically would only sit in that little tiny deck thing there at the bottom.
And that's it?
Well, you'll notice there are windows, but that kind of area in the superstructure, crew would go in there.
Okay.
But generally, passengers would just sit in that. Some Zeppelins would have a second dorm. Not many, but some.
But they wouldn't have like rooms or, kind of that, like more...
They were moving towards that. The idea was that this would be the ocean liner of the sky. Yeah. But it was ultimately the destruction of this particular Zeppelin kind of put...
That's the one where the guy jumped from.
Yes. I think so.
It is.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, this is the actual Hindenburg, because you can see it.
Yeah. The swastika. Yeah.
Yes. It was a German Zeppelin in the 1930s, if anyone's wondering why that's on there.
I remember watching this live.
Felix Baumgartner, yes.
Yes! Oh my God!
This is very cool. This guy jumped from this capsule.
How high was it again? That was...
127,000 feet.
So technically from space at that point.
Well, Depends what your definition of the space is.
Well, like the stratosphere.
It was 127,851 feet over Roswell.
Oh, wow.
New Mexico. Most people will know that Roswell's famous for a number of things from the stars. Yes.
That is so cool. That's the thing. Yeah. That's so neat. Wow. Adam, this museum, I have to say, I'm quite impressed.
Yes,
This museum is
I was expecting it to be good, but I was not expecting it to be this.
Oh, this has been been in my entire life. No, without a doubt.
Okay, tell me about this shiny one.
This big boy?
Yeah.
This is the Boeing 707 prototype. This is one of the first jet aircraft ever made. It was for civil
What about that one?
service.
No.
Well, that one I don't know. I'm not sure about that guy.
Aww. Oh, wow. Oh, look at that.
There's another Charles Lindbergh thing there.
There's a lot of Charles Lindbergh.
The road is
So here's a whole bunch of memorabilia. Look at this.
Dude, Ben would love this. Ben loves Charles Lindbergh.
Yeah. I feel bad.
I really do.
Yeah,
that's
Absolutely brutal.
well, Adam.
Okay, World War I planes. I'm not an expert on. I will admit, on World War I
Excuse
aircraft,
me?
I am actually not very knowledgeable on
Adam,
World War planes.
what the
I
heck?
should do some more research
You
on it because
should.
it is the rise of flight and is a very, very, very
I
fascinating
am
era. But
disappointed.
because some of these designs are just so cool.
Look at it. No, look at this. Oh, I like this.
Yeah, that's. I don't even know which one that is. Oh,
My favorite was there was a
Wow.
plane First World War bomber that had a I forget the name of it, but it had like a searchlight
Okay.
in front of it, and it was used to hunt zeppelins because in World War I zeppelins were used to bomb London.
Yes.
Yeah, London specifically, and a few other sort of major cities in
Uh-huh.
Britain. Sort of a precursor to Blitz in the Second World War.
This is a SPAD, so this was a French plane.
Uh-huh.
But the Americans flew it too.
Look at the machine guns in the
Yeah,
back.
it's twin machine gun.
That is neat.
Which is
What,
quite cool.
what do you think the accuracy was on these early things? Probably not that good.
But you got to remember that people were flying way slower.
They're flying slower. Remember, this one of the more interesting things of aerial combat in the First World War is while you have this horrible, in many ways, pointless slaughter in the trenches, the aerial war.
There's Billy Mitchell, by the way, one of the very famous men who pioneered the concept of air power. And wasn't it Billy Mitchell who said the bomber would always get through? Was he the one who coined that term?
I believe so. Yes.
He coined this term called, which would be the bomber would always get through no matter what. And the idea was that you couldn't stop bombers from destroying you.
During
Or you could lessen it, but not.
between in the interwar period, actually, the great fear was that in the future, just bombers would annihilate cities
And ships too.
Yes, and now that was kind of put into action in the Second World War, but yeah, like another thing though, at the same time, you know, not to disagree with Mr. Mitchell, but like, you know, counter defenses against bombers have also advanced with the bombers.
Right.
But he does have a point that, you know, aerial attack completely changes the game. But anyway, what I was earlier saying,
Yes.
in the First World War, aerial combat took on this very like romanticized idea with the
aces.
the pilots even sort of shown as like kind of jousting knights in like propaganda. So that's where you get the Red Baron and all these people. So it is interesting that this kind of, you know, there's this sort of Knights of the Sky ethos that sort of carries on into the Second World War further with the ideas of like ace in a day and stuff. Somebody who shoots down 6 planes. 8 planes.
Interesting. That's by the way, that's a beautiful monument. Look at that. Look, just the kind of the bravado and the posture there. Huh. Adam, you know what? I'm actually perplexed that you don't like the World War II planes. World War I, yeah, sorry. Because I thought they're the coolest ones. It's like the most
look at this
primitive
Curtiss N9H. Look at how ripped up it is.
Is that the Wright brothers, a model of the Wright brothers plane?
No, right here. Baldwin.
Okay.
Holy crap, look at this. Wow. That is nuts.
1911, similar to the Curtiss Pusher, but it was quite popular with builders. Most were 60 horsepower engines. So this was a very, very early. Look at this. Look, just very early aircraft from like 1911. Just look at how rudimentary it is, but just very
That's nuts.
The German
UFO.
flying. This is the German
Sci-fi
plane.
plane.
The German flying. So that's all that's left of it. Is that?
Is that right there, like
Yes,
in the
that
center?
piece in the middle. So this was a German flying wing, and that piece of it is all that's left.
So what was
the
the?
Hawker Hurricane? But they're basically identical. They're almost identical.
Okay.
No, they're not.
Huh?
No, they're
Well,
not.
oh yeah. They're extremely similar.
No, they're not. Oh yeah. So what is this?
Hawker Hurricane. So before the Spitfire, the British had the Hawker Hurricane, which was
And what's the Spitfire?
The Spitfire came after the Hawk. Supermarine Spitfire came after the Hawk. It's the quintessential, most famous British aircraft of World War II.
Okay, I should clarify. They aren't almost identical, but they look almost identical.
They look almost identical.
And if there's three planes that kind of define the British and Commonwealth war effort in World War II,
yeah,
it's the Hawker Hurricane, the Supermarine Spitfire, and the Lancaster bomber, which I do not believe there's one here, but we have one at home in Nanton, Alberta.
Wow, really?
A flying one, actually.
And it's still working.
Yes,
one.
It's still working.
Oh gosh, what is this?
This is the P. This right here. This is
the
Lightning. The P-38 Lightning. So the F-35 Lightning II is named after the second iteration of this extremely famous two-engine fighter from World War II. This plane was an amazing fighter in the Pacific. Super long range, great maneuverability, high firepower. This plane shot down Isakuro Yamamoto's plane.
No way.
And killed Admiral Yamamoto.
This.
Yes. Not this exact plane, but this type of plane.
Wow.
Was the one that assassinated Admiral Yamamoto.
For those of you who do not know who that is, it would be like if the Axis killed General Eisenhower in World War II.
Wow. So like the top.
He's the guy that planned the Pearl Harbor attack.
Wow. Wow. And Adam, what is this? Look at this.
I have no idea what this is.
I love the name though, the Olmsted Pusher.
1910. Wow.
Engine, gnome rotary.
Look at this, 1910, 1912. So this is, I think this is one of the first pusher aircraft ever made.
And so the pusher means
the propeller is
in the back.
To push the plane forward through the air rather than
wow.
it through the air.
Wow. That's fun. And look, from here you can kind of see the back of the Gaiola.
Yeah, you know the gay.
The Gaiola.
Gaiola, yes. Gaiola.
So, Adam, can you tell me...
No, I'm just talking too much. I need a fucking water after
Adam,
this.
can you tell me why... How do you know all this? And why? And how?
Just tons of reading, tons of aviation and military video games and simulations over the years. I was playing flight simulators and air combat games when I was like 10 years old.
Wow.
And it just never stopped being my interest. It's always been there from the very beginning. But like I would have loved to have come, even 20 years ago, I would have loved to come here 10 years ago. But today my interest in aviation and history and the Cold War and everything will never go away. It will only get more interesting
refined
as I get to finally visit places like this that I've wanted to visit my entire life.
What is the what's your favorite plane in the world?
That's too hard a question.
Come on.
Honestly, I can't answer it, man. Like what era, what purpose of plane, what like civil, military? It's too difficult for me to answer. I can't do it. I can't do it, sir.
Cool this looks. Just seeing the planes from the top like this.
Yes, actually, this is cool.
Yeah, this is
Look at that.
Part of half the reason I wanted to be.
Wow. So a lot of that, of course, is for markings, right? So your teammates would know. Well, not your teammates. Your allies would know who not to shoot for, right?
Yes, teammates, because they're all playing Call of Duty. Battlefield 1. This is all just game of Battlefield 1. That's all everybody's
What about these ones? The ones that are hung.
This is a Piper Cub, a very, very common general aviation plane. Like this is one of the most common planes in the United States right here, the Piper Cub. Like it's a very, very popular.
And what do they use it for?
Aviation. For pilot training, just flying from point A to point B.
Spotting cubs, bear cubs.
Yes. Oh yeah, you got a very nice view of the Enola Gate here.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, look at that. Man, this is unbelievable. I still can't believe that this is the one. I don't know.
Dang it.
Oh, but this goes into the space.
Yeah, sorry guys, I screwed up here.
No, it's all good. We're...
Yeah, you got it. If you want to go up higher.
On the other hand, you get an absolutely amazing shot of the Concorde.
Of Concorde, right there. Well, look at that. The fastest commercial airplane ever created. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fastest commercial.
Yeah.
And again, like one accident and a
terrible
dynasty lost.
And why the nose? Why did the nose go down? Like, I know when they take off.
Funny. Well, there was a reason. The reason I believe was because at lower speeds, though, they needed visibility when they were approaching to the airport, and when they're taxiing, because they need to be able to see.
Yeah.
But when they're flying at supersonic speeds, you don't want the nose drooping down because it's less aerodynamic.
Of course.
They raise it up.
Okay.
When they're getting the high speed, and then when they slow down or about to land, they lower it down so they can see better. That's from what I understand.
And it's kind of that whole concept of one wing too, right? And a bit.
Yeah. So the one wing design, it has what's called our flaperons and elevons.
Okay.
Which are because everything is integrated into the wing, like the flaps and the elevators are integrated into kind of two separate kind of control surfaces that move independently, called flaperons and elevons. It doesn't have traditional flaps and an elevator because it's a tailless design.
Do you think any of these planes can still fly around, or do you think they're just completely gutted?
If somebody spent enough money, they could probably bring it back to airworthy condition. But would it be worth it to do so?
Oh, look! You can look inside the cabin.
Oh,
that is cool. Wow! Look at this, guys. You can see inside the Enola Gay. Look at that.
Keep a good grip on that thing.
Buddy guy. Maybe I'm just a chill guy that wants to take videos of Enola Gay. Oh, there you go. Here's a good view too. Wow, guys, look at that. Whew. Impressive. Oh, look at that beautiful kind of leopard.
Yeah, again.
Oh, Vought Kingfisher. That's a cool fighter, naval fighter.
Wow. Like, how would you even guide this? Huh? How would you, like...
another German wing. Another German wing design, the HO3.
Yes, but like,
That's
how
just
would...
a boomerang. Like a giant...
No, but like, how would you guide... How would you land this without crashing it?
Good fucking question. It's not easy.
I think you'd have to land on water.
Spicy how they kept the swastikas on.
Well, it's
Historical, yes. Ooh, Adam, what is
That's
that?
something we did not.
Mr. Adam, what is this?
I want to say it's a B-24, but I actually don't remember.
That's a pretty cool one.
Look at that. I like the nose art. Hit up girls on it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, and look at all the bombs. It was a very successful.
The B-2. All the types of planes in the war. What was the biggest casualty? Was it the bombers? Was it interceptors, fighters?
What do you mean the biggest casualty?
Like, what was the deadly?
Or do you mean what was the deadliest?
The deadliest casualty, like, who would be shot down?
Bomber crews.
Well, bomber crews had a horribly high loss.
Bomber crews had a life expectancy similar to World War I frontline infantrymen.
Oh, gee.
It was that bad.
Oh, there's an IL-2 Sturmovik here, Nick. The Russian attack plane.
Where?
World War II.
Show me. Where is it? Where is it?
Somebody said it somewhere here. And this is base. This is what we need.
Wow, look at this.
Dude, I want this job. Can I get a job restoring old planes like this? Fuck I'm quitting my job tomorrow to fuck that.
Jesus Christ, Adam.
Look at this.
Adam, are you quitting your job?
Yes, I'm quitting my job to do this. This is a million times more interesting than what the fuck I do. Look at this. That's cool stuff.
So here you can see the...
Two videos and both of them have Adam cussing out his job.
Good. So this is a workshop. This is where the new planes...
Well, new.
the old planes, well, the new planes that come into the Smithsonian get fixed up, painted up. So, Adam, tell us what we see here.
So, well, it's the Space Shuttle Discovery. This is one of the
Wasn't there like 13 of them?
The longest serving space shuttle orbiter, flew on 39 missions, and obviously it didn't explode like the Columbia or the Challenger.
Right.
But look at how worn it is because of how much service this guy saw.
Yeah.
Like the amount of missions it went on, the 39 Earth orbital missions, 365 days in space, an entire year in space.
That's crazy.
That's many things been into space.
And it's so cool to see the shuttle in person. And it's a shame that the shuttle is gone. I know that they have SpaceX is working on their own program, the Dragon, but it's not the same as the space shuttle. The space shuttle has just a really intrinsic cool quality to it.
Have you seen?
It's just not there anymore.
Have you seen the model of space shuttle in Houston, NASA?
No.
Okay, I have, and it's like now that I see this is battle worn. You know, like
they don't have a real one there.
No. It's just a mock-up. But like you see this, and you're like, oh my god, like this has been through hell and back.
You can see like just re-entering the atmosphere just causes because you see why the Columbia broke up.
Yeah,
because there were tiles on it that were not properly attached or whatever. And it
so
just exploded.
Question, Adam. Those black things along the side are obviously not windows. So what are they?
What do you mean?
Like notice the little black.
Oh, those are. It opens up. It opens up.
Oh right.
No. So this whole thing is a cargo. That's where Canada arm comes out of.
The Canada arm, the one good thing that Canada has ever built.
Ever built.
Hey, we just finished talking about the Avro Arrow.
Okay, yes.
Well, they didn't
the Canada
finish.
arm was actually very.
They didn't finish building
very high
Avro
IQ
Arrow.
Canada. The Canada arm is unironically high IQ Canada.
Yes.
We don't have that anymore because of
Wow. Wait a second. One sec. This is so cool though.
Oh, there's a missile.
Okay. All right.
Wow. Big U.S. Army missile here. I don't know which one.
Oh. Bruh, look at that size.
Oh, it's the Redstone. So the Redstone missile is one of the first U.S. Army missiles ever. I believe it was one of the first U.S. ballistic missiles put in service by the U.S. Army sometime in the 1950s.
Wow.
I'll have to jog like them right here.
Huh.
Yes. 1953 to 1958, at a range of 320 to 400 kilometers, would carry a nuclear warhead. It was replaced by the Pershing missile, though, in 1964, because this was liquid-fueled, and liquid-fueled missiles are dangerous and hard to
transfer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did I tell you my grandpa built missiles?
Yes.
But he built not the liquid fuel ones, the other ones. Yes.
Yeah.
So we go up, and this is where we get
Flying at you at Mach 2.
Yeah.
That fucking thing. And you're in this plane right here, and that fucking thing is flying at you at Mach 2.
Yeah,
and how fast can you go in that plane?
No, actually, this missile probably is Mach 3.
And
you can only go maybe Mach 1, 1.5.
So that's not good.
No, the missile is going to fucking bince you.
And is there any way to diverge from, like...
Yes, these early missiles, you could dodge them, you could drop chafe countermeasures. They were easy to spoof. But just look at how big it is. It's fucking terrifying.
It is terrifying. That is terrifying. Is this the size of, like, modern-day Atacms kind of thing?
Well, but that's a surface-to-surface missile, though.
Well, I know.
We saw one of those over the... what river is downtown? Potomac.
I don't think it was that.
I might have been. It looked very similar.
This is an older one, I think. This is the Jayhawk.
Wow. But still, guys, look how neat it is to see all these planes from the top. Kind of gives you a whole different point of view. Fantastic. So what is this, Adam? This looks very unique.
Oh, I thought it was a Comet, but apparently it's a version of the... This was... Okay, never mind. This is the rocket, and this is the actual Comet. So this is a rocket-powered plane that the Germans had called the Comet.
Okay.
It was powered by a rocket. So they'd fly this thing up, and it could fly around for like 20 or 30 minutes at ridiculous speeds that nobody else could compete with at all. And then it would shoot bombers and even fighters, and then it would go in and land.
Like glide to?
Yes, you could glide. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a very impressive aircraft because it was actually literally one of the first rocket-powered aircraft ever.
Well, I can imagine how hot it would get.
McDonnell and then McDonnell Douglas. McDonnell Aviation later merged into McDonnell Douglas, and this guy, like, he's responsible for some of the most, most successful jet airliners, military aircraft, spacecraft, and missiles ever made. And he designed these during his tenure: the F-2 Banshee, the Demon, the Voodoo, the Phantom, the Eagle, the Harrier, and the Hornet. Also America's most successful.
And we've basically seen all of them here today.
A lot of them were here, yeah. So this guy is an American aviation pioneer.
And so he's a designer, right?
Yeah, like the company buried his name, McDonnell Douglas.
Wow. Is it still around today?
No, it merged into Boeing. They merged with Boeing in 1997. Which is part of the reason why Boeing is actually having a lot of problems today.
Why?
Because McDonnell Douglas's management style was always like accountant first.
Oh, okay.
So this is the Regionalist cruise missile. This is one of the first cruise missiles ever made by the U.S. military.
Okay.
It was, I think they were actually going to deploy these on submarines in watertight containers from the 50s until the early 60s. But it was kind of it was taken out of service.
So Adam, sorry, what makes a missile a cruise missile?
It flies at a low altitude, generally below the speed of sound, but not necessarily. Whereas a ballistic missile goes on a ballistic trajectory that goes up and then down. And a cruise missile flies along the ground.
And what's the benefit of that?
Well, you can, in theory, have potentially a longer range and potentially make it harder to shoot down. There's trade-offs.
Okay.
So right here we have the Corporal missile. This is one of the first missiles used, also made by the U.S. Army.
Oh.
It was used in the 1950s, and it was operational in 1954. It was taken out of service in 1966 at a range of 120 kilometers.
Wow.
Very early missile. As you can see, it's huge.
It is.
Large. And right here, this is the MGR, the Little John, which was a rocket. This is basically a rocket that they would put a nuclear warhead on that had a range of up to 40 kilometers. But to think that a rocket that doesn't go very far has a nuke on it, they were crazy in the 50s. They put nukes on everything.
And why would they do that?
Because they thought that the Soviets would attack them with ridiculous amounts of troops.
What would a 40-kilometer nuke rocket do?
Well, in emergency, you got to deploy a nuke because you're going to get overrun, maybe.
To where?
Who knows?
Who knows?
So right up above us, there's the HS-298 missile. This was actually one of the... this was an air-to-air missile prototype, and that's another air-to-air missile prototype. These are both German air-to-air missile prototypes that were some of the earliest air-to-air missiles in the world.
Wow. So
they were very, very primitive, but revolutionary for their time. So
why was the...
and over here, here we go. We have... This is the HS-293 missile.
Yes.
This is arguably the first anti-ship missile ever made.
This one?
One of these was used to sink the Italian battleship Rome when it was put into service under the Allies. And the Germans put one of these underneath a HS Michael bomber and then launched that, and it did devastating damage.
It means a butterfly.
This is another prototype German anti-aircraft missile called the Schmetterling. I don't know as much about this one.
Okay.
This is another German prototype glide bomb called the Hagelkorn. Very interesting. Actually, I think it's... No, sorry, it's above us.
Oh, that's about...
That's the Hagelkorn.
Oh, it looks like a modern-day drone.
Sorry. I was wrong. The HS-293 was not used to sink the Roma. It was the Fritz X. As you
can
see
this
here,
one. This one.
September 1943, the DO-217 sank the Italian battleship Roma. So this was a guided bomb, and I mean, at the time, this was so far ahead, it's unbelievable. Like this, you have this in World War II. How is anybody going to defend against this?
So how did they?
The only hope was you could jam the radio signals that these put off. The Americans had some decent jamming systems, and you could potentially jam the radio link between the commanding aircraft and the bomb, which could cause the bomb to miss.
I have to say, the German weaponry is so far ahead in some ways
yes, it is.
than Allies. How did they do so poorly?
Well, they had all these programs, but it wasn't actually enough to do anything.
Also, a lot of these are very flashy and very effective and very advanced, but
look at this.
Sometimes this is the Rhein Doctor R1, which is this is a German surface-to-air missile in World War II. Again, a prototype that was very ahead of its time. Only 6 missiles were ever launched of this type, the R3. Well, there's the R3 and the R1. I guess this is the R1, which is the early one. But again, the Germans had surface-to-air missiles in World War II, but they just couldn't get them behind enough. That's very
that is so strange. Okay, Gargoyle. Look at that one.
That would be above us.
Oh, there it
So
is.
this is an American one.
The fat boy.
That was American prototype system that was never actually really put into serial production again. So.
Oh, that one looks interesting. Look at this Navajo missile.
Yes, this is a Navajo SM-60 something U.S. Air Force. So this was designed a surface-to-surface missile that was going to be carry a nuclear warhead, but it was ultimately canceled. I can't remember why. But
Oh, look. This looks old. What is this?
oh, this is a jet-assisted takeoff rocket for a German aircraft. The Golf GO-242, which was a large troop-carrying glider. This is a rocket booster that they would put on the plane to help it take off.
Oh, wow.
So it would reduce the amount of time. Because it's just a rocket, right?
Yeah.
Reduce the takeoff.
Look at this. It says 600 kilograms each one.
Of thrust.
Wow. Oh, thrust. Okay. That would make more sense.
That's pretty quite impressive, though.
Huh. And is this like different engines for the rockets right here?
This is the Navajo rocket engine, which is used by. This is like two Ramjets, which would power the Navajo cruise missile, which could go up to 8,800 kilometers away.
Wow.
The Navajo never became operational, though, because it would cost $1 billion apparently to develop this. All these engines, and they didn't have anything to show for it.
Do you? What's your opinion? Do you think these technologies that sort of go into dead ends that never actually make it to working model, do they get recycled later on? Like, is there like, or is there, Adam?
Yeah, it depends. Like some of these programs have trade-offs that, at the long run, ultimately it ends up helping another program later. Even if the program is canceled, the expertise from the one program could sometimes end up helping the development of a later program. So it's not always a net loss.
Okay.
Right here we have a bunch of different types of. Here's like a Nebelwerfer rocket. This was launched from like German rocket artillery.
Oh, okay.
This is a
That's a firework.
This is a bazooka rocket and a Panzerschreck rocket, which was fired from the anti-tank rocket.
That's right.
There's a Panzerschreck right here, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Used by a German anti-tank team. That's pretty cool, actually, the infantry weapon.
These, by the way, speaking that we are in the United States, these Congreve rockets, now this is a much later one, the 1860s, but these were used during the War of 1812.
Oh.
And that is actually in the United States national anthem. Rockets Red Glare is
And
from
that's
those things.
that is that.
Yeah, now that's a later model, 1860s, but those were used during that.
Fascinating.
Yeah, during.
I did not know
siege of
that.
a certain fort whose name escapes me at the moment. But, yeah.
Wow. Most interesting.
Yeah.
This is an engine right here that would power the Titan ICBM, an early American intercontinental ballistic missile. And this H1 engine right here, actually, a cluster of 8 of these powered the Saturn 1 and 1B, which are precursors to the Saturn V, which would deliver the Apollo astronauts to the moon.
Oh,
So that's
really?
not the same engine, but that's a precursor to
Okay.
it. These are various sounding rockets. These are resounding rockets or research rockets, which are launched up into outer space to gain, not outer space, but all over space to get information on various kinds of data of, atmospheric measurements and weather.
Okay.
Right here, this is a PAC-2 Patriot full-scale model. So this is a model of the Patriot missile that is currently in service by the U.S.
Oh, that's the Patriots?
One of the Patriot missile, yeah. So this is what would be shooting. This is in service right now, used in Ukraine. The Ukrainian military uses this missile.
It's not that big. It's interesting how much smaller the rockets have gotten.
Yeah.
Like,
it's kind of crazy. Oh, right here. So this is a standard missile 3.
wow.
So this full-scale model of the standard missile 3. So this is the standard missile is used by the U.S. Navy, and the standard missile 3 is used to shoot down ballistic missiles.
Craziness.
So these are launched. These are mounted on U.S. Aegis destroyers, and one of these is capable of going into outer space with the lightweight exo-atmospheric projectile kinetic warhead and destroy a incoming ballistic missile or a satellite.
Are you serious? A small thing like this.
This missile shot down a satellite at 210 kilometers of altitude.
Gee,
210 kilometers up.
that's mind-boggling.
Oh, and right here, this is really cool. So this right here, oh, sorry.
Uh-oh. Are you okay?
Yeah, we're good. Right, so right here is the RIM 8 Talos missile. This big guy here. So this was one of the first SAMs used by the U.S. Navy. It was 1957 to 1979. A huge ramjet engine, 40,000 pounds of thrust. This thing weighed, well, the warhead weighed 300 pounds, but the missile weighed a ton. And the family missiles was the Terrier, the Tartar, and the Talos missile. The Talos was the biggest, and the three T's, as they were called, would form the backbone of U.S. Navy air defense systems for most of the Cold War. And the Rim 8 was one of the biggest. It was only mounted on certain types of cruisers because of its size.
Huh.
And it would have two type of
So Rim kind of did the job, eh?
Okay, great. Right here, this is the Sub-Rock anti-submarine missile. So this missile right here could be launched from a torpedo tube from your submarine. This missile would fly up. And then what it would do is it would fly up and it would fly 25 to 50 miles away onto a position of an enemy submarine, and it would drop a nuclear depth bomb on the enemy submarine. So basically, one submarine could nuke another enemy submarine.
With this one?
Yes.
And how could it drop it? Like, what do you mean?
Well,
like,
the missile would, look, see, as you can see in this picture,
yeah.
This missile would come from underwater from a torpedo tube.
Yeah.
It would be in a capsule.
Yes.
It would fly up, and then it would just fly towards the target, and then it would detach a depth bomb at the apogee, and then it would fall down, and the depth bomb would go into the water to a preset depth and then detonate.
What is it like if a nuclear explosion is in the water? Is it?
Well, there's some nuclear tests of many. They did a lot of nuclear tests of this, and it has a very different detonation, but it obviously.
But it's still pretty powerful, right?
Of course, yeah, and it can easily destroy anything like submarines and anything within the region.
Wow.
This right here is an AIM-76 Falcon.
That's weird. Look at that.
This isn't. I mean, I don't know why they have all these little thingies on it.
Spurs?
Tufts of string attached to show air float over it during aerodynamic tests.
Oh, okay.
So it was designed for use on the F-108, F-108 Rapier, as I was mentioning earlier, the American counterpart to the Avro Arrow. And then it was transferred to the Lockheed F-12. Oh, and then the F-12. So the F-12 was the fighter version of the SR-71 Blackbird. They were going to make a fighter version of that plane. We saw the SR-71, the famous one, but that was canceled. So then this missile was ultimately canceled as well. So this is it's based off the AIM-4 Falcon, which wasn't real. That one actually saw service.
Okay.
What do we have over here? Look at these old computers too. This is cool. Old computers, and then this would deliver a spy satellite stage. This rocket could deliver a spy satellite, from what I understand.
Oh wow.
Into orbit. So.
Wow.
Yeah, the upper stage. So right here, the GNB server from 60 to 63 is the Corona Photo Reconnaissance Satellite. There you go. Quite cool.
You know what? I still remember these exact computers from my childhood because, like, my grandpa worked at the university, and they had like a computer room from the 80s and 70s, and it looked like that. It's cool.
Well, these computers are from like the 60s, though. But Soviet computers. Yeah. This was the thing about the Soviet Union is their computing technology was unfortunately way behind the West.
Oh yeah.
And this was probably the biggest problem.
Check out this one. Look at that.
So this is really cool. This is what a Corona satellite would drop this capsule from space back down to Earth, and this is what the film that the spy satellite took would be in this capsule. And this capsule would be retrieved by a destroyer usually, because this would float. A U.S. Navy destroyer would have to go out and retrieve this fucking thing.
way.
Or else they wouldn't get the pictures from the spy satellite.
So it would just catapult it down, plop it into the ocean?
It would shoot out the little capsule, just predetermined time, and they'd be able to calculate where it lands.
And it wouldn't, like, burn up because of the...
No, because it would be in this sphere. Because before they had the ability to digitally send images, right? The only way to get the film was by retrieving it. And how do you get it from space? It's not fucking easy.
You drop it.
And what if the capsule falls in like China or Soviet Union? You're fucked. You're not going to get it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't sometimes they have planes with kind of almost like a net to catch these, like a flyby?
So this capsule was recovered on May 25th, 1972 at the end of the last Corona mission. Modern satellites, electronic. Oh, there you go. The capsules deployed a parachute which enabled an Air Force airplane to retrieve it by snagging it in midair.
Yeah. Wow,
there you
look
go.
at that. There you go.
So sometimes they could, I know they could retrieve it from the ocean, but they could snag it out of midair.
Have you ever had, like, instances where Soviets would try to snag it first? Like a game of catch and...
I don't know of any, but it's certainly possible.
Wow, look at the view of shuttle here. Oh, fantastic.
Oh yeah, the shuttle engine is the cool part.
Can you imagine the sound that this thing would make when it's in full throttle?
Yeah.
Oh. All right, one of these.
Well, these are scale models of various rocket programs that have delivered. They have the Arene, which is a European one. The H2, the Nuri, I think that's Nuri's, no, that's Korean. The Titan, the Delta, these are all delivery vehicles, various rocket types that have delivered various types of payloads into space.
Wow.
Not necessarily, no, not human payloads, unguided payloads.
Okay.
And here we go, this is a Space Lab module right here.
An actual one.
So yeah, this is a Space Lab module that would have been deployed on the Space Lab mission.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty cool.
In 1990s. Oh, look at that. Oh. I can't really look inside, but neat. Wow. Space Lab transfer tunnel. Igloo. Oh, is this a Canadian invention too?
Yeah, I wish. I don't know as much about these types of modules. I mean, they're very interesting though, of course. But...
Yeah. Interesting. Is it Sputnik? Nope.
Vanguard 1. That's a very, very early.
Is this Russian?
It's
no.
the counterpart to Sputnik.
But American version.
It's the Vanguard 1, yeah. Very early. Now that's a gift of John P. Hagen. It says that's obviously not going to be one.
Of course.
This is the Vega system, which is Soviet.
Oh.
And this landed on Venus.
This one. Oh, the hottest
burnt up
one.
in 5. So it burnt up in.
That's the one where you have like little footage. Like before it burned.
Venus is just like I don't know why anyone attempts to put stuff in there because
No, this was in 1984. It's a long time ago.
Venus though, like
No, the Soviets actually tried. The Russians tried to put stuff in Venus, which was like no. The Russian Americans were like fuck no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But the Soviets like no, let's try it. Well, it's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
well, the problem with Venus is like it rains sulfuric acid.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is a bunch of like really corrosive chemicals. It's an extremely volcanic.
Wow, look at this.
planet, and it's
Look at this covering under the wings. See all these scaling so it doesn't burn up. Yep.
This is where you're going. Poopy. Space poopy.
Toilet for space. Oh wow, look,
it just looks like awkward.
Actually,
Indoor activity.
look, it actually looks pretty heavily used there. Look.
Or no, I think that's a shadow though, not poopy.
Yeah, that's a shadow.
That's not poopy.
Yeah.
Adam, do you need a break from all the talking?
Yeah, man, my mom was gonna bet me for seeing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think. Well, we're basically done.
No, there's a few more missiles over there, and then yeah, then we're done.
Just a few more missiles, guys. Just a few more. Oh, what is this? Wait. What is this? What's that ring?
Oh, this is like a Saturn V. One of the rings that the Saturn V has on it.
What do you mean?
The instrumentation unit. Yes. So this unit ring right here contained an instrument unit that separated the rocket's third stage and command modules. It contained basic guidance components, digital computer, radar telemetry, and other units.
Jesus Christ! Look at the amount of connections and wires.
And again, this probably had as much power as like a calculator today. That's part of like books.
Look at this. What? 1960s Android. That's cool.
I mean, the eventual idea is that so many like places in space are so hostile to human life that if you want to explore them, you want something like that.
It's like a real life Terminator.
But I don't think they work particularly well.
This looks cool.
Yeah.
So apparently, after a mission, they put astronauts in here after Apollo 11 for 65 hours. They had to stay in here.
And why is that?
I guess they were worried about
Radiation.
contaminating.
They were worried about random diseases and stuff that no one had ever. I don't think they discovered any, but
Oh, look at this. The mothership model.
Actually,
that's actually not a bad film.
Not a bad film.
I've never seen it.
Oh, wait, Adam, look.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Based.
Look, American standard.
That doesn't look so bad. Do you think they were able to smoke in there? I mean,
You know what? That is a valid question.
It's a valid question.
We should ask one of the guys. No, you probably not. But maybe. Hey, fuck it. Maybe you never know. It's the '60s, right? Maybe they just didn't give a shit. Okay, so here.
Oh wow, look at that. Polo 11.
This is not a real one. It says it's a this boilerplate is this is similar to the Apollo command module.
Okay.
And apparently the bags attached to it. They were attached to Apollo 11 command module Columbia when it landed in the ocean. Oh, so these are the bags from Apollo 11?
Huh.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Flotation bags.
How would these open up? Because they would burn
They're
up.
just bladders that inflate like the
Okay.
some kind of injectable air. Like that.
Gemini. Look at this one. Huh. And Big Joe.
Re-erect the Gemini 6 vehicles. It could be launched in 10 or 12 days.
Very cool.
There you go. This is the Mercury 7 capsule. One of only 2 left in the original configuration from Alan Shepard's mission.
So this is how they would come back to Earth, right?
I believe so. I don't know if this is the... I think the real one is at the one in the mall.
Okay.
This one might... It looks like it's a...
Replica? Or training
Well,
one?
it is one of them, I think. But it's not the actual...
Okay.
That's still pretty dope, though.
Very cool.
This is an AGM-86C cruise missile. This was fitted to the B-52.
Oh.
And these were designed to be launched into the Soviet Union with nuclear, but in later conventional warheads. It has a range of 2,400 kilometers. They've made over 1,700 of these.
Wow.
The C version has a conventional warhead, but the B version was equipped with a nuke.
Okay.
So
What is that?
this is some kind of Goddard sounding rocket based on Robert Goddard's... Oh, sorry, right here. This is Robert Goddard's sounding rocket from the 1920s, which is pretty cool.
Nice. And of course, Canadarm, right? Oh, more missiles here?
So this right here, this P-15 Kermit, this is actually a very revolutionary and famous missile right here. This is the SSN-2 stick. So you know that video I made from Sea Power?
Yeah.
About the Israel Battle of Latakia in 1973?
Yes.
So this missile was a Soviet missile, the SSN-2 Styx missile. And this was one of the first anti-ship missiles. Actually, this is the first anti-ship missile to sink an enemy ship in combat.
No
On
way.
October 21st, 1967, 5 months after the Six-Day War, Egyptian missile boats fired this missile and sank the Israeli destroyer Elliot with all hands lost. This revolutionized naval warfare. The first anti-ship missile to ever sink an enemy ship.
And this is Soviet, eh?
This is the Soviet one that did it, yeah.
Look at this. It's called Rainbow Design Bureau.
Raduga's Rainbow?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Raduga. And has a range
Raduga.
of 42 kilometers and, yeah. It's a very revolution. Like, this changed warfare forever.
Really?
You're like, no, it can't be said how much it did. The
Interesting.
Matador cruise missile.
Jesus, look at the size of this
The
one.
green one. This was an interesting missile.
fuck?
It had a range of 1,000 kilometers.
Yes.
And it was only deployed for a few years in Europe until it was replaced. Because it had a jet engine that powered it and ground-based microwave emitters, but I guess it could be jammed, so it wasn't.
But that's huge. That's just huge. Any interesting here?
And this is an AGM-86A. So actually, this is a earlier version of that guy.
Oh, that guy. Oh, I see.
Yeah, cool to see the little turbofan.
Yeah.
These cruise
Looks
missiles
like...
have turbofan engines. It's crazy that these missiles have a jet engine in them that's really small.
Yeah.
But that's how they power them to go thousands of kilometers.
Okay, Adam, well, you have to tell me this. What is this?
And last, okay, so this one right here, this small guy here, this is the ASM-135 ASAT.
Yes.
Which was an anti-satellite missile that the U.S. Air Force... So right here, there's a photo of an F-15 in a zoom climb launching this missile, and they successfully shot down a satellite in 1985 with this missile. So what would an F-15 would carry this missile, fly it up as fast as it could at like a very high angle, and then launch this missile to space, and this could destroy a satellite.
And so when you're talking about destroying satellites, like who's? Like Soviets?
Well, they just experimented by using it on an American one, but in theory, yes, they could shoot it at
Has
Soviets.
anybody ever shot down
An enemy satellite?
an enemy satellite in real life?
No, they've only shot down their own satellites.
Okay.
Because the problem is, it's called Kessler syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of this, but if you start a war in space by shooting down everyone else's satellites, all of the debris stays up there.
Yeah,
and then the debris never goes away. And then as soon as there's enough space debris, because everybody keeps blowing, then outer space actually, the orbital layers are ruined.
So you can't even,
because there's so much debris.
You probably can't even
never
leave.
use them again.
You can probably not even leave the stratosphere.
Yes, you could actually.
Like there would be a percentage of
humanity
risk, from ever leaving.
Yeah. and so we can't leave because there'd be too much debris. We try to exit orbit and we just run to the debris.
That's crazy.
So this is why a satellite versus satellite war could, like satellite for satellite, but if America and China and Russia just start blowing up each other's satellites, it could be very, very bad.
Because like, what would be the rough amount of satellites now we have, like in the?
I don't actually know the number, but there's thousands. I mean, Starlink is thousands alone.
Yeah.
Because Elon Musk has launched thousands of his tiny little satellites alone. So what's this? This is the Lockheed Homing Overlay Experiment Test Vehicle, an anti-ballistic missile test vehicle.
What is this?
The HO vehicle.
The HO.
A physical hit to kill. After the missile separated from a booster, its guidance system locked onto it. A vehicle just had a demi-war at an altitude of 100 miles. Oh, wow. So actually, this was a test, I guess, for this one that was used to test the concept of shooting down a satellite a couple years before this one actually did it.
Oh.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
And then right here.
To end it all?
End it all is the famous Canadian contribution to, arguably the most famous contribution to the space shuttle, the Canadarm.
And so why was Canadarm so revolutionary, Adam?
Well, I'm not an expert on it, but it enabled astronauts to work outside in space, and because it was so maneuverable, there were television cameras everywhere, and the arm is shoulder, elbow, and wrist joints, and it was just a very versatile system that worked really well, and it was used on 15 missions from 1994 through 2011, and it was a very popular tool, and Canada helped produce and implement it.
I do like how they always had Canada on it. You know, like it's
I know.
sort of iconic.
Like, I'm not a huge Canadian patriot for obvious reasons,
but for that,
but this is something I can actually genuinely be proud of.
I could,
because we don't have a lot.
We don't have a lot.
But this is something that I can actually be proud of.
That's true.
You would agree, right, Cindy? Yeah. Canadarm is something I can actually be proud of.
Oh, absolutely.
No, that was awesome. Yeah, look at those joints. Like, I mean, that's just.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can see how it can move kind of like this and that. Yeah. So you have a full 360 sort of 4D. Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Well,
that is about it.
I think that's about it.
Concludes the tour. I'm sorry. There's one more there. That white.
Yes.
One there in the middle.
Yes.
So that's a Nike Ajax missile. That's another very early U.S. Army surface-to-air missile program.
Yes.
It was in the late 50s and 60s. The Americans were experimenting with SAMs, the Nike Ajax, Nike Hercules, and that was one of the programs that they came up with. And it was actually deployed, I think, operationally for many years as a U.S. Army SAM. And it was in a very interesting system that was exported to, I think, the Korean. It saw service in Korea, too.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, there you guys go. And that's the beauty of having friends that know it all. So, Adam, how was the trip? You liked it?
It was great. This is one of the greatest museums ever. The greatest museum
it's so good.
I've ever seen.
Probably the largest.
So
I don't know.
The best place. The best aviation. So good.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot. I sure did. I'll see you on the next adventure here in Washington, D.C. Cheers.